All right, all. I'm going to start with some housekeeping rules while we wait for our fabulous Mary Uniglass to join us. In the world of busy people, it's pretty amazing. So it'll be a pleasure to have her when she gets here. But just housekeeping rules, the very first thing, I want everyone to understand that in Sebastopol, as we know, I'm looking at faces that understand this and live this, that we try our best to be as inclusive as we possibly can. And in that vein, we have a fabulous, very professional Spanish translator who is joining us tonight. So before we go into any content at all, we want to make sure that she gives her message to those who are Spanish speaking in the audience who might want to have the possibility of her translation services. Her name is Michelle, and the great thing is, to those who take advantage of this opportunity, they will be in a room where they'll be hearing just the Spanish translation, and we on the English side will be hearing the English version. So those who are interested, you'll be selecting in the lower part of your screen the little globe image that says interpretation, and I'll point out that that gives you not only the chance to select out to get a translated version with the lovely Michelle, but also if you want to do closed captioning, you can do that there. So Michelle, if you could communicate with our Spanish speaking audience and let them know what their options are to participate tonight. Okay, so on the organizational side, the commission team, do we see Michelle in the audience? And can we invite her to unmute herself, please? So I'm working with a vaccination team, and this kind of reminds me of the vaccination experience. It's like you're building the plane while you're flying it. So I'm going to move on, and the commission team will let us know when the translator is available. But to begin with, I'm going to run through some housekeeping rules, and I can text those to the translator to remind the Spanish-speaking audience. And Michelle, when you're on, please just interrupt me, and we'll get you on to speak with our Spanish-speaking audience. And I think we do have Mayor Uniglass in the room, but I think it's going to be really important to have her welcome message translated in real time. So I'm going to go.
Councilmember Rich?
Yes.
I'll do that really quickly. I think there was a miscommunication there, but thank you so much, Michelle, for being with us. Vamos a continuar esta presentación en español. Si no ha visto que hay un globo o un mundo abajo de su pantalla donde puede hacer un clic y ahí puede oprimir el español para que pueda agarrar esta presentación en todo español con la bien amable Michelle, que está en el cuarto de interpretación. Muchísimas gracias por estar con nosotros.
Muy bien, qué bien. Él puede hablar en español también. That's great. Awesome. So basically, for those who didn't understand, what we've done is invite the Spanish-speaking audience to connect with Michelle using the interpretation globe in the lower right portion of the screen. Again, closed captioning can be accessed through that method too. But now we have our wonderful Mayor Uniglass in the room, and she's going to give us a welcome message. And then we'll have a very brief introduction from me and from Hal Qualwasser of the Rotary Club of Sebastopol. And then we'll get into the real meat of the event tonight. So Mayor Glass, are you prepared to welcome us? But you're muted there.
I am now. I was having a few technical difficulties there. So thank you, Councilmember Rich. Good afternoon, everyone. And welcome to our Sebastopol Community Summit. The past year has been tough on us all. We all have a bit of PTSD and agoraphobia for spending so much time in lockdown, without community context this past year. I personally found it very difficult as a widow to be home by myself, having so little contact with friends and family in my community. Although city government of Sebastopol has mostly been working from home, we have been very busy during the pandemic. We have been responding to the county health orders, researching resources for food and housing and healthcare, and circulating critical information to the public regarding COVID, and responding to our economic emergency by arranging for special pickup zones and parklets for outdoor eating and small business loans. And I could go on and on, all the things we've been working on, so much more. City staff have worked tirelessly, and we are all, I know everyone in the city, very incredibly grateful to them. Now we are in the process of gradually reopening, and the city is holding this summit to help us all re-engage with our community and ourselves. Vital to our community are the service clubs, nonprofits, and other stakeholders that help us function as a community. Food and housing, mental health, schools, our environment, the arts that nourish our minds and souls, recreation to keep our bodies healthy, services for the elderly and youth, food for our minds and respect for our heritage, and the critical search for equity in our community. That's what this summit is all about. Emerging from the refuge of our homes, re-engaging with our community, and exchanging information and ideas, so our nonprofits, service clubs, and businesses can relaunch and thrive as we emerge from the COVID era. Today, we are penetrating the walls of our silos and communicating about our needs and our vision as we bring our community together and solve problems. Good things happen in an environment of shared information, and that's what this summit is all about. Let's celebrate our resiliency and craft a path forward. Thank you to all the Sebastopol service clubs, the nonprofits and businesses, and their tremendous amount of work that has been put into this summit by commission, our city staff, and my colleagues on the city council. And thank you, Diana, in particular, for emceeing this event and taking us forward in this journey. Go for it, Diana.
Ooh, my turn. I just had someone text me and say that they can't get into the Zoom because we're at capacity. So that's fabulous, but I'm communicating that message here to commission because it's Elizabeth Smith. So hopefully they can take care of that. We want her on. So thank you, Mayor Glass, for that welcome. It's an amazing time, and it's fabulous to have all of these community members here in the room to help us celebrate our resiliency, our ability to get to this point, and to share with us the various needs in our community so that all of us who are willing to be here on a Wednesday evening to participate in a Zoom can participate in so many other ways: volunteering, supporting, becoming members on boards. All of these organizations want board members, just saying, but you'll hear about that. So my role right now is to just kind of give you a framework, let you know what's going to be going on tonight, and go through some housekeeping rules. We're all pretty familiar with Zoom, so nothing will be particularly surprising. I do want to refer you to the chat. That'll be your opportunity to put questions into the chat, comments. We do have people monitoring those questions and comments. And so the idea here is to try to track any threads, any themes, so that at the end of each panel, when there's a Q&A opportunity, our facilitators and co-facilitators can engage with at least a handful of those questions. We are going to try to retain those so that we can follow up, but you'll see also there will be an opportunity at the end of each panel to click on something that is, show your interest. And it's a really quick Google form where when you listen to all of this, you can then go on and you can put in your name and your email address, and you can say, I'm really interested in the following organizations, or I'm really interested in a particular topic, or why don't you guys do something the next time about whatever topic, equity, whatever. So please make sure you take care of that. You engage in that opportunity. And remember, keep it civil, keep it positive. So here's the housekeeping rules. But before I get to that, honestly, what I want to do is really applaud, for everyone's benefit, the amazing service organizations that participated in getting us to this point. And it's really one of the most exciting processes that I have been involved in, because it engaged each service organization personally and in a deep way with other service organizations that are making this community such a wonderful place. And it was a real, it's a real opportunity of collaboration. And you'd think we would have all met each other, but we hadn't. And we see this as a launch pad to so much that's going to be going forward. This is just the beginning, folks. The summit is not just the end point. It's the beginning for relationships that will benefit our community way into the future. And that's why we want you to give us your feedback so that we can make sure we engage you in that process too. But here's the list. The Active 2030 Club. I didn't even know we had one in Sebastopol. And these two women, Rachel Anderson and Amanda Erlinson, were incredible young professionals doing things for the community. We have the Grange, Sebastopol Grange. You'll be hearing from Laura Schaefer as a facilitator. We also have the Gravenstein Lions Club, an amazing group that's doing all sorts of work for youth. And you'll see them summarized in your resource guide, which I'm hoping you'll take a look at. The Sebastopol Kiwanis Club, the Rotary Club of Sebastopol, and the Rotary Club of Sebastopol Sunrise. They're facilitating tonight also. And then also the Sebastopol Community Church and St. Sebastian's has been involved too, St. Sebastian's Christian Church. And then we also have the Masons and the Veterans of Foreign Wars. What a variety, what a spread of voices have contributed to this event. So housekeeping rules are pretty basic. I'm running through them really quickly, and then Hal Qualwasser is going to give us an overview of survey results, and then we're going to quickly move in to the first panel. So the first panel is going to be the food and housing panel, and the next one will be mental health and schools, and the third one is environment, and then finally we have community enrichment, because you got to end with Jim Corbett and Meg Mitsutani from my perspective. Okay, housekeeping rules. Please don't unmute yourself. It'll make it a lot easier for all of us to hear the speakers if the rest of the people are muted, sorry. Secondly, please recognize that tonight this is being recorded. Next, we are streaming live on Facebook. So if you're interested in getting access to that or want that information, just put your question into the chat. And again, repeating the same thing I've said, put those questions into the chat. It's super important. Translation you've heard about. We do have closed captions as an option, as you heard about. And for those who might have joined us very recently, that's the interpretation icon in the bottom right of the screen. If you need more information about that, si necesitas información sobre la mujer que está traduciendo todo, por favor lo pones en el chat. So that's the translation piece. Other than that, make sure that you access the resources now and later. Make sure you fill out the Google form so we know what you're thinking. And now we're going to get started. And I am going to turn it over to Hal Qualwasser of the Rotary Club of Sebastopol, who is going to give you an overview of the results that we got from the surveys that kind of framed where we ended up going with this particular summit. Hal, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Diana. And thank you all for joining in today. All of us at all the service clubs are just delighted that this event has worked out so well, and so many of you are attracted to this event. And hopefully you'll learn lots of good things over the course of the next couple of hours that will motivate you to give time, give money, give support to the community in the ways that it really needs help. So again, thank you. And I hope you all have a smile by the end of this because you will have learned great things and found good things to do in 2021 and 2022 in our new post-pandemic world. Those of us who created this summit began the process with a simple question. What is going on in Sebastopol and West County? My club, and I believe most of the other service organizations, have been inundated with requests in the last few months, but we didn't have a sense of where all those individual requests fit in the bigger picture. We had been isolated in our homes and had lost track of things. We needed an overview to figure out what was really important and who was doing the best job of assisting our neighbors. So we, the City of Sebastopol and Commission, sent out a survey to over 100 community organizations that try to make life better. We got back approximately 70 responses. After piecing together all those stories, let me tell you what we found. We had many challenges before the pandemic, but the disruptions caused by job loss, school closures, social isolation, and plain fear made things much worse. What the survey revealed is that housing insecurity and food insecurity increased significantly during the pandemic. Those two things brought pressure on families and disrupted lives in significant ways. That turmoil caused a variety of knock-on effects. The most important, at least according to the surveys, were the adverse impacts on people's mental health and students' ability to cope with the pressures of learning in a new, and to many of them, unfriendly environment. Unfortunately, the pandemic's reach extended beyond its harms to people. Many of our local organizations dedicated to making life better in Sebastopol were badly disrupted. Their volunteers were fearful about coming out to do their work, and the organization's typical fundraising devices were impossible when people couldn't gather. Nowhere was that more evident than in the survey responses from environmental groups. The drought, fires, and overuse of the river in a year when people did not want to go further than an hour or two ride from home posed bigger environmental challenges than ever. But the groups didn't have the wherewithal to respond. Similarly, lots of civic groups in Sebastopol faced the same problems. A lack of money and volunteers made it difficult for them to keep their projects going, assuming that they could stay open at all. The Chamber of Commerce, the Luther Burbank Farm, and the Center of the Arts all had to curtail what they did. Now they have to pick up the pieces and build back. So that's the overview. The question we faced was how to tell that story to you in a couple of hours. We wanted every organization to be able to share its work, but with 70 survey responses, that wasn't possible. So here's what we've done instead. We've organized 4 panels, as Diane told you. First, given the extraordinary impact of food insecurity and housing insecurity, our initial panel brings together our food banks and our housing organizations. Although they are quite different in their focus, they have, in this case, confronted the same problems. The panelists will give you an idea of what they do, not only in the face of the pandemic, but also with the long-run issues that the area has needed to address for years. Second is the panel on mental health in schools. Now, I'm your facilitator here, so let me tell you what I'm going to be doing. Our panelists are from mental health organizations and school administrators, and they are going to address how they have been working together to deal with mental health issues among our youth. But as significant as this one problem is, they have other concerns, which they will hope to be able to share briefly with you. Third, our environmental panel will take you through 3 distinct but serious aspects of our local environmental challenges. I think you'll be surprised at the degree of damage the pandemic has caused to their efforts. The last panel comes from some of our local community institutions, the Senior Center, the Community Center, and the Art Center. These groups have always made our life better, but they too have been strained by what has happened in the past year. Hopefully, these discussions will stimulate your thinking. If you have questions, please go into the chat and raise them. At the end of the panels, we have reserved time to respond to your inquiries. Also, if you'd like more information about either the panelists or the other organizations that responded to our survey but were not able to be included on the panels, go to our guide, which is on the city's website or sebsummit.org. 2 final things. First, with regard to the groups not on these panels, those who will be talking to you are going to try to share some of those other organizations' efforts so that you have as full a view as possible of where you might place your support. If you don't hear enough about those organizations, feel free to go to the chat and ask a question about them. And the panelists' organizations, particularly in the first two panels, serve people who have a broader range of problems than just the topic we've asked them to speak about. If there's enough time, they will also share some of their other work. If you'd like to ask a question, say about schools' problems beyond mental health, again, feel free to do that through the chat. Now, we hope you find these sessions inspiring and motivating and make you want to do more for the community. And with that, let's segue to the panels.
Perfect. Thank you, Hal. We are now going to have a 5-minute break where some slides will be shown for the audience here as we prepare for the first panel. So for those of you who need a bio break, as they call it, now would be the time. But we're going to stay right on schedule. So at about 4:24, we will have Patrick Slater, who's a city council member here also, who will be joining us to introduce the food and housing panel. And I do want to recognize that we have in the audience the entire city council bringing this event to you, joining up with the service organizations to get that done. And I see also that we have some city staff members working beyond their regular workday. So thank you also for being here. So with that, bio break until 4:24, when we will be, and during this time, please do keep an eye on the slides, because they do have a lot of worthwhile information that will help you recognize the many things that are going on in the community that are benefiting all of us. So thank you. We'll be back officially at 4:24. Could you lift your, we need to see you more than that.
Okay.
We're just doing, and I'm going to cover the. Hello, everyone. I think that we are back and ready to start our first panel, which is the food and housing panel. I'm hoping that we have the charming Patrick Slater in the house. Council member Slater, are you out there somewhere?
I am right here.
He's right next to me.
I'm-
Wow.
So I'm
And
happy
look
to.
at that, look at that amazing Zoom background. How does he do it? So thank you, Council Member Slater, for being here. I'm going to just remind everyone, keep yourself muted. Do use the chat. Make sure you inform us of your questions. We're going into this panel, and at the end, there will be a 10-minute period when your facilitator and co-facilitator will be doing their best to field any key questions or comments that they've seen. So give them the benefit of your questions and comments as you listen to this and think about this particular panel. And again, for Spanish translation or for closed captioning, the lower right globe interpretation. Para español, el globo que está ahí abajo es como pueden hablar con Michelle. And I think that is my only reminders. Again, we're being recorded, and Patrick Slater, council member, and he's our housing, he's on our housing subcommittee, and also knows a lot about this topic from his many activities here in Sebastopol. So go, council member Slater.
Yeah, thank you for that introduction. And this isn't a background, I just have a blurry office. So our first panel is food and housing, as you just noted. From the series project, we have Catherine Couch, and from the Sebastopol Grange, we have Laura Schaefer, who will be the facilitators for this panel. And a reminder to please use the chat function for comments and questions. And that's pretty simple. It's all down there in those buttons at the bottom of the Zoom screen. I think we're all familiar with those by now. So I would like to now introduce Catherine and Laura. Please take it away.
Great. Hi, everyone. Catherine Couch Series Community Project, and I'll be doing the prime facilitating, I think, for at least this first part of the panel. And Laura, you want to introduce yourself? And I think you'll be watching the chat for us.
I am Laura Schaefer, president of Sebastopol Grange 306. And yeah, it's just great to see all these faces in this community doing such great work. It's really wonderful. So, yeah, any questions about anything?
So we have a great panel to kick off today's event about food and housing with 5 on-the-ground leaders who are engaged in important work in our community. And I want to just start by saying these are intersecting challenges. And here's just a little context setting. Individuals experiencing homelessness are 3 to 6 times more likely to become ill than housed individuals. They're disproportionately affected by complex chronic and acute conditions, including heart disease, cancer, liver and kidney disease, AIDS, HIV, pneumonia, and tuberculosis. Individuals that are homeless are also at significant risk of food insecurity, which further exacerbates their health status. Food insecure individuals are more likely to postpone medical care, to not take prescribed medications, to be high utilizers of the emergency department, and to require hospitalization. So this interconnection between these 2 issues on this panel really makes a lot of sense. We're gonna start with 2 rounds of questions for each of the panelists so we can really frame the issue for you, and then we'll open it up for some Q&A at the end. To get started, each of the panelists will introduce themselves. We'll give you a little bit of background on what their organization or group does, and then answer a really important question. What is the most pressing food and or housing problem facing our Sebastopol community? So I'd love to kick it off with Tim from West County Community Services. So Tim, if you want to step forward, and we're going to give each person 3 minutes, and we'll be managing the time. And so you might hear, please wrap in the next 30 seconds.
Great.
So go ahead, Tim.
Thank you. So straight to it, West County Community Services has been in the community since 1978. We focus on 4 things: counseling and behavioral health, housing and homeless services, senior services out on the lower Russian River, and employment. I mean, there are endless problems with hunger and housing, but I just want to say perhaps that for me, the most pressing problem is for food in particular is both awareness and equitable distribution. I think locally, as around the world, there's no shortage of food. The world has enough food. There's enough food in Sonoma County and in West County, but people aren't aware of how to access it. We aren't providers always aware of who needs it. And so there's inequitable distribution of that food. I think that's a really pressing issue that we can do more with the same for us to focus on. So in other words, for providers to know what to do and people know to access providers and for what. I think that's particularly true of our Spanish speaking community. So I think just two brief examples on that within the 3 minutes. There's a shortage of housing, but the city, thanks to the city and the group of advocates and the people of Sebastopol, we now have Park Village, which houses 10 homeless families. And food has been provided to us for our shelter on the lower Russian River from the Sebastopol Grange and from Saves. So those are just two examples of how we can work together in housing and in food distribution to take advantage of existing resources to serve more with less.
You were very succinct, Tim, and that's good. We'll probably need that later. So let's go to Ron Karp at Food for Thought.
Hi, I'm Ron, and I am Executive Director at Food for Thought. We've been serving Sonoma County for 32 years. We're founded as an agency to serve people with HIV and AIDS, and we've expanded to serve people with other illnesses. From my perspective, the biggest problem is people's lack of access to healthy food. And it's for a variety of different reasons. It could be that they can't afford to buy healthy food. They may arrive at a store with a certain amount of money, and the cheapest items to buy are the ones that are the least healthy. Or they may not have access geographically with transportation to healthy food, or just don't have really the proper amount of knowledge to really select what the right food to eat is. So I agree with Tim that there is plenty of food and it's not adequately distributed to everyone in the community. But there is a lot that we can do about that in terms of helping people find the food and also educating them on how to eat healthy and how to use what they can afford in the best way possible. There's so many resources in our county. And of course, there's the COVID epidemic, which really exacerbated the distribution of resources. And there's been so much increase in food insecurity because of loss of jobs or loss of housing or the chaos created by the epidemic. And that's one of the big things that we're focusing on right now as well.
Great, thank you so much, Ron. And now let's go to Adrienne Lobby from Saves.
Hi, so Saves is an organization. Well, let me just stop and say thank you and how honored I am to be invited to this panel and to see all of you and have a chance to talk to you. And then I'll tell you about Saves, which obviously I'm a little excited to do that. We are a 501c3 and we're fairly new on the homeless scene, although the activists who are on our board have been involved in 8, 9, 10 years. And we see this problem of housing. There is not enough cheap housing. There's plenty of food. I think we all agree that distribution and all of that is so true, but just flat out housing is a real problem. So in the immediate sense, we have 300 some people in the West County and 100 of them or more are living in Sebastopol, homeless people, people who fell out for all kinds of reasons. And so this is I would say the biggest problem with food and housing is the victims of the way we have it. Yes, we need to build more housing, but Saves was started to say we have a problem with just people being miserable and suffering now while we wait and work on these large housing projects. So our solution is tiny villages, which you may have heard us say parking, but essentially it's a place where people could be where they're legal and where they can start to find community with each other, where service providers and food providers can find them. And while we're working on that, we have been distributing food, making and distributing food with a wonderful group of volunteers, primarily from the Grange has helped us a lot. And volunteers from the Center for Spiritual Living have done a lot of our cooking, but we actually take food out directly to homeless people in the camps. And I'll say more about all of our various needs to do this all better as we get there.
Thank you so much, Adrienne. I think we're seeing a repeating theme and an interconnecting theme here. Arthur George from West County Homeless Advocates, let's hear from you. Are you on? There you go.
Okay. Again, I'm with West County Homeless Advocates, an ad hoc volunteer organization drawn from members of Sunrise Rotary, the 5 churches that rotate on a weekly basis, what's called Saturday Table, providing hot lunches to the homeless. That would be Sebastopol Christian Church, Community Church, St. Stephen's, the Methodist Church, and Imambi Buddhist Temple, if there's a 5th Saturday. Our experience is from working with the homeless. Many of us volunteer at a homeless breakfast and shower program that's conducted on Monday and Thursday morning at Sebastopol Christian Church from 8 to 11. And there they get a shower, a hot breakfast, a bag lunch. That food is largely due to the generosity of Sunrise Rotary. And our experience is that there is not food instability in Sebastopol. There's plenty of food, and it holds the homeless at a level that they do not sink below. And even the showers hold them at a level of sanitation that they do not sink below. It's not lavish by any means, but it holds them at a level, and that's really due to the generosity of people in Sebastopol. The 5 issues that we really see as to homelessness are drug abuse and mental illness, which our group can't really address. That really needs to be addressed by larger entities. And the 3 that we really target are safe parking, sanitation, which largely means portable toilets and hand washing stations, and housing. And as to that element, we're more focused on what's called tiny houses, lower cost approaches, rather than mega projects that take a long time to get going. The safe parking and sanitation are kind of tied in together. We've had very good responses from Larry McLaughlin, the city manager and city attorney, about deploying toilets and garbage. It sounds rather mundane. It's very low tech, but very, very efficient, and it addresses needs that people identify and they find kind of offensive. If there's human waste on their street, et cetera, or people parking on their street and not presenting in a favorable manner. Garbage cans and portable toilets are a remarkable solution. So that's where we really put a lot of our efforts.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Arthur. And Herman Hernandez from Lucien.
To be able to present on this panel. Again, my name is Herman J. Hernandez, founder and current chairman of the board of Lucien, Sonoma County. We are an organization, nonprofit 501c3. Our objective in the communities is conveying, bringing the community together in education, bridge builders, connectors, and resources. And over the last 14 months, we've been doing this virtually. And I think that one of the most important things relevant to Lucien is getting the communication into the Latino community, as well as the wider community. And the importance here is that you work extremely harder in trying to get the message to the Latino community on the basis that their focus is on survival, jobs, housing, and family. And so we have been very blessed to be able to reach out into our those that participate with us, which is well over 2,000 participants at a program. We also try to be very focused on resources when it comes to our political leaders, community leaders, and the connectors extremely to the nonprofits, even though those that have been speaking today, plus many more that serve our whole community. Thank you.
Great, everyone. So I think we've really laid out the issues well here, and now we're really going to get into the meat of the matter in terms of what are the projects that are happening, what are the efforts being made, and how can you support those here in our community? So what are the volunteer needs, in-kind needs, cash needs, advocacy needs of these organizations and the work that they're doing? And we'll mix it up a little bit. So why don't we start with Adrian, with you, to talk a little bit about what are the efforts, the real on the ground projects you guys are working on, and what kind of support do you need? What are the specific things that people can do to help you? And I think we have enough time for 4 minutes for each of you to really share some detail now.
All right, thank you, Catherine. It's an honor to follow Herman. And part of that is because there is such a disparity in homelessness. There are more homeless people of color than there are in the population, percentage-wise, and there are less homeless people who use the services than are part of the homeless population. So there's discrimination, of course, in this system as well as all the rest, and it's really important to keep that in front of our faces. I want to stop and praise Sebastopol for a minute. Along with Arthur's group and the churches, we have a smaller group of people who have been meeting the last month or so. And I see a cooperation in Sebastopol that I don't see a lot in the rest of the county. Morris Street is the most obvious example of it, where people are being left alone, but not left to their own devices. They are helped to get services. They're helped to get vaccinations. Thank you, Tim. And I think this is a wonderful example of how even the police can cooperate with the advocates on the ground. And that's a model that I think SAVES is very invested in. We believe in community, and community is really about relationships. It's about going into something without a lot of stigma, a lot of stereotypes. And that's my first ask, is if you talk to someone or know someone, the subject of homelessness comes up, watch for those stigma and stereotypes and counteract them. There are a million reasons why people become homeless. There are, well, maybe not a million, but there are a lot of ways that they are homeless and how they do it. So anything that you can say about a population in our county of 3,000, you just can't generalize. So, stand up for homeless people. They're human beings, and they deserve our respect. Until we get to know them and we know more about them, let's treat them like neighbors, because frankly, they are our neighbors. The problem, of course, is people live outside. We believe that living in vehicles is a form of shelter, but keeping a vehicle up is very expensive. So here's an ask for, if you're part of a club or a group and you're looking for projects, there are a lot of people who need help registering and keeping their vehicles maintained. And if you think about it, this is a house, this is a shelter, and it keeps people from some of those devastating illnesses and so on that Catherine was talking about right from the beginning. We have a slight bottleneck in food distribution. We'd like to be able to do more food distribution in Sebastopol. And I think all we need is 1 or 2 people to step up and do something on a kind of regular basis. Another thing you might think about doing is sort of an individual one-on-one, adopt a homeless person. And I think Arthur or the churches or our other small group could hook you up with someone. And you just start. What do you need? Do you need an ID because you lost one? Do you need a phone because it got broken? And then you started working on up into helping someone get into housing again, which is ultimately everybody's goal. We need help. This came up earlier today that people end up in the jail system in a sort of circular system because they miss their jail appointments. They miss their, you need to go to court. So could be a relatively minor offense, but you can't get to court that day. And so drivers, people who would be willing to make sure that people get to their appointments, remind them and take them over there. Wow, you could make a huge difference in someone's life. Jobs, if you have a business and you can use some people, homeless people need work, and some of them have a lot of skills to bring. So contact people and make offers, and let's see if we can hook you up with someone. There's also job preparation, the usual close, interview things, maybe even help looking for work. These are important things. Finally, in my particular organization, we're looking for board members. We're looking for property. We have pretty much everything we need for our first village, except a piece of property that we can afford. So if you know someone who's got property they'd like to use for this purpose or rent at a fairly reasonable rate, get in touch with me. Finally, the big one is show up wherever there is a low income housing project. Show up at those meetings. There's always a few people in those neighborhoods who are afraid, who are sure their property values are going to go through the, just tank. And we need people to come in and say, oh, actually, I have a low income housing project like I do in our neighborhood, and it's just fine. So that's my speech. I'm going to say thank you for everybody who's thinking about volunteering right now.
Adrienne, I love that. I especially appreciate you starting off with stigma and stereotypes and how we can all speak up to counter those. And then just the great specificity of the ways that people can support your work and support the homeless people in our community. So thank you for kicking us off in the right direction. Let's go to Arthur George at West County Homeless Advocates.
Spoke to the city council about a couple of times. And when COVID struck, Morris Street became the de facto safe parking area. CDC recommended that homeless encampments not be disrupted out of fear of spreading the virus. So Morris Street became the de facto area. And again, the city council, city manager, Larry McLaughlin, was very responsive. At one point, there was some concern. Originally, there was no public toileting down there, and people were using buckets. They were throwing their waste into the Laguna. There was going to be a police enforcement action, we believe. The community was going to push back. It was not going to be pretty. I learned of this, and I passed the information on to Larry. And that afternoon, there were garbage cans and portable toilets deployed there. So again, rather mundane, not very glorious, but it got the job done, and it held off what could have been, a civil disturbance that we see in other areas. So the city has been very responsive on that. We're very fortunate here that we have really a small number of homeless people. We are not overwhelmed by the numbers that we see in Santa Rosa. Again, the city, I keep coming back to portable toilets. Santa Rosa keeps fumbling over what to do about portable toilets, and then they wonder why there's waste and blight on the street. Well, we're dealing with it. We're putting out toilets, we're putting out garbage cans. The city is going to be doing more of that at key locations, mitigating the complaints that merchants in the Barlow legitimately have about the impact on their neighborhood. So there are ways to mitigate that are very, very practical. On the issue of safe parking and what individuals could do, let's assume we have 20 vehicles in the Morris Street area. If we can get 5 of those, one by one, onto 5 pieces of property, could be 5 gas stations, or 1 gas station, 1 industrial lot, 1 store lot, whatever. Get 5 of those people moved, you've solved 25% of the problem. Of those 25 vehicle campers, you've moved them 5 off-site, and you can limit that. You can control who they are. You can interview them. You can screen them, and you can prevent them becoming permanent on your property by simply saying, okay, you can be here from 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. and then you're going to have to move. At least that breaks things up and keeps things out of neighborhoods, which was an original concern that we were trying to address. And then on the issue of housing, we understand that Governor Newsom is just going to be committing millions of dollars toward housing. But some of that gets caught up into mega projects. And we've seen, for example, the Sebastopol Inn, now Elderberry Inn, at a cost of $6 million for 30 people. A high expense, wonderful for those 30 people, but there are other micro responses, largely called tiny homes. And I know Jim Glom of Sunrise Rotary is constantly advocating on this. It's an idea that is beginning to get some traction. Salem, Oregon has a project up there called Emerald Village, where they've had great success with this. Los Angeles is starting to implement it. We see a form of it over on Los Guilicos, out on Highway 12, I think, that the county has put in. So those are smaller responses that can be more immediately implemented. And I think if people can put their weight behind that, we are having some discussions with the North Bay Builders Exchange about getting those built by younger persons who want to get educated in the trades. So those are all things that can be done, small scale, but very effective.
Thanks so much, Arthur. So what are the ways that people can support our making property available for folks living in vehicles and then helping to advocate around the housing issue?
Well, I think Diana Rich is actually the point person on the city council. If I may raise her name here, she's very busy and very committed. One more task for her, but she's already very involved in trying to get that implemented. Community Church has space for 5 people that's already committed, as I understand, and those folks have been screened and vetted through Catholic Charities.
Great. We're gonna need to move on. I just wanted to clarify that that's what you were looking for. So thanks so much. And then let's go to Ron.
Thank you. And I just wanted to thank the homeless advocates and their volunteers for all the work that you're doing. We've had about at least a 20% homeless rate for the clients that we serve, and it just makes life so much more difficult for them and for us to serve them. Although, you know, we've figured out ways to work with people that are homeless, but it's hard to remain healthy while you live out on the street and outside. So thank you so much for the great work that you're doing. One of the things that Food for Thought has always done is work with a lot of volunteers. So we've had anywhere from 500 to 600 volunteers a year. And when you know, COVID hit and all the people that were 65 and over were advised not to volunteer anymore, we had to just change everything that we do. And in order to provide a safe facility, we had to hire staff and work without volunteers inside the facility. We were still able to, of course, have people driving and working in our garden. We deliver all over the county, and we added a lot of delivery routes, up to about 40 per week, people delivering to anywhere between 5 and 10 clients each all over the county. So one of my concerns is just that when we're able to bring volunteers back in, which we hope will be really soon, is that there will still be people that want to volunteer. We've had so many long-term volunteers, and this has been a full year that they haven't been able to come in. So of course, we're concerned about that. One of the things that we did for COVID was that, you know, people were asked, once they tested positive, they were asked to go home and stay at home. And, you know, how do you do that when you don't have food? And so we decided to create a program, and the county was referring people to us. And probably the first 50 or 60 referrals were multi-generational Latino families who everyone had gotten infected, and they needed a lot of food and they had no resources. It was just such a mess. So we delivered food to about 3,000 people over the past year that had that were testing positive for COVID, and learned a lot about the food insecurity and the food needs in the Latino community. And now that, you know, in the last month, the COVID pandemic has just really nosedived. It's amazing how fast the number of cases has reduced. And it's for us, it's not the problem that it was even a month ago. So we're looking at ways that we can not only continue to serve our HIV clients, and we're serving people that come out of the hospital and serving people with other illnesses, but we want to make sure that we devote some of our resources to providing nutrition assistance and education and the food that people in the Latino community need, because there are obviously, as Herman said, there are a lot of needs, and everyone needs to do everything that they can just to respect that the needs are not properly met in all parts of our county and in all populations. So we're looking for people that want to come back and help volunteer. We're looking for people that have expertise in the illnesses that respond to food, for our volunteer committees and for our board, people that are interested in that sort of things. You know, so there are certain illnesses like heart condition and diabetes that respond really well to proper diet, and the right diet can be maybe as effective or more effective than even drugs and some of the medical care that people are receiving. So that's been our focus, and it's going to be our focus going forward. And we certainly are always looking for volunteers, and that's the way that we could really use help from the community.
Terrific. Thank you so much. And how about Tim? You want to talk a little bit about some of the projects you're involved with and how the community can support?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have two requests, one kind of philosophical and one practical. And this is building on what others have said. You know, housing and homelessness, they're both real estate issues. You need the property, and it needs to be the right property. And I would just ask folks, because I've only been doing this sort of work for 5 years. And prior to those 5 years, I was a bit apprehensive, like many people are, about, are these projects in my neighborhood, non-traditional projects, going to work? I would just urge everyone to think about the kind of non-traditional housing and or homeless housing projects in West County alone that there were trepidation over but have worked. The Park Village project on the city property. The fire chief says the calls to that property for emergency services have dropped by 90% since the 10 homeless families moved on in the last 3 years. Elderberry Commons, there was justifiable concern that the Sebastopol Inn that area was going to be degraded. I don't think there's been any actual occurrences on that. We, for 5 months, ran an outdoor COVID navigation center, a tent city at the Guerneville Park and Ride. There was not a single police call for 25 people there, 24 hours a day for 5 months. So there's a lot of these things. They're very, very effective. And as we think about safe parking or Los Guilicos types of tiny homes, I think the experiences that the community has had, Sonoma County wide, have been very, very positive in an actual sense. And we just need to remain open-minded about those, and we'll succeed because it's a very creative community. The second thing that we need help on, and I talked about access and outreach, is we are looking to hire a bilingual outreach manager who will be outreaching to all only in West County for our senior services, for food, for counseling and behavioral health needs, for all of our programs. We want someone who's bilingual so they can serve virtually the entire community in English and Spanish. So if anybody, and I just put it in, I put it in the chat box for anybody to send a good candidates our way. It'll make a real difference in our community. Thank you.
Great, and let's wrap up with Herman before we open it up. We've got some great questions from the audience that we'll turn to in a second, but Herman, let's hear from you first. Herman, you may be muted.
Oh.
Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I'm sorry.
Great.
I was looking down and not looking up. I just want to say that I'm very appreciative of all the sharing that's going on to educate myself about some of these other nonprofits. One of the things, the opportunity that LOCIAN has is the opportunity of getting to know many nonprofits throughout Sonoma County. And I say this because what we do is we look at collaboration and partnership. We look at the relationship that some of these Latino-led organizations, the trust that they have already created in the community to be able to partner with another nonprofit to go in deeper with those services that both nonprofits can be able to provide. We've also worked with the County of Sonoma and being able to help them with vaccinations, with food distributions throughout all of the county. But I think the big thing is when I look at Sebastopol, I did ask some residents of Sebastopol if they knew what the Latino population was. And I was lucky to get the information this afternoon to find that out of the 30,012 population, 3,428 are Latino, which represents about 11% of your community. And I think that, it is without a doubt that you look at the rest of our county, how these populations are increasing, the needs that the individuals have, and I appreciate the nonprofits that have already spoken, how they're going in and trying to be able to fill the services that these individuals are in need of. So, I think when I present LOCIAN, we're a very unique nonprofit. We're not a hands-on nonprofit, but what we are is we are a communicator and community engagement. And we would be a resource for anyone that would be interested in wanting to partner with tremendous nonprofits. And you have one right down the road there in Grayton. The Grayton Day Labor Center has a lot of information, has done a fantastic job. So I just want to kind of leave it at that. Thank you.
Terrific. I love that's a great note to wrap this part on. We're gonna go to questions now from the audience. I think panelists just feel free to unmute and chime in. This isn't set up that well. I can actually see all of you, so that's helpful. There's some really very specific ones to begin with here. Does anyone know how many children are homeless in Sebastopol?
I think that is a really hard question to answer because frequently homeless people who have children are very careful to stay out of sight. They're afraid their kids will get taken away from them. So I personally don't have an experience of having met a homeless child in Sebastopol. I wonder if anyone else has.
We've held several at Park Village, but I'd have to echo what Adrian said that we'll actually be in Sebastopol with the health center giving out vaccinations to homeless folks in Ives Park and on Morris Street. And as I've gone up and down, I haven't seen any evident children.
Got it. Thank you. Those are good insights. And then this is, I think, is a really great one. Is there a need for toiletries, sanitary products, clothes, support for homeless women? This could potentially be a project for Seroptimist. Love that connection. So Adrian, Arthur, Tim, I'm assuming the answer to that is yes.
Yeah, I can say, as to toiletries, they can certainly be provided to Sebastopol Christian Church to assist with the shower program, the Monday, Thursday shower program. And they can be dropped off there typically Monday, Thursday between 8 and 11. I'm not quite sure what their COVID protocols are now. They are not presently taking clothing because of COVID concerns, but there would likely be a need for toiletries and particularly feminine items.
And Arthur, and I assume Tim too, if Seroptimists want to get in touch with you directly, you'd welcome that.
Yeah, I could give my phone number here if they wish. 707-793-7835. Again, 707-793-7835.
Great. And then staying on the housing question, what are the ways that people lose housing in West County? And again, all of you can jump in here. Maybe just a couple stories of the situations of people that you know that have lost housing.
You know, I can say, give a couple. Very often it's due to a lost job. During COVID, the most common thing that I saw was it was a loss of a second job, that they had a supplemental income working at a restaurant maybe 16 hours a week, and they lost it, and that tipped them into homelessness. Very common. Mental illness obviously is one too, but that was a very common thing.
Yep, great. Anyone else want to add to that one?
I think the 2 points, I often say this, it's true across the county, that usually takes two disasters. You know, maybe you have a divorce and then you have a mental breakdown, or you lose a job and then some other part of your life falls apart. But people lose their resources in the first crisis. They kind of use up what they have or their families. And then the second one kind of puts them out on the street.
Yeah, I'm not going to remember the stat completely. Somebody on the panel might, but I think there's been some pretty good data nationally in the last couple of years about the incredibly large percent of people that couldn't cover a $400 expense.
Yeah.
And I think that's just a reminder of how many people are living that close to the edge.
Yeah.
And then
Many-
what about the connection between housing and transportation? And that's all I've got on that question. But any thoughts about housing and transportation?
Oh, you
Well,
just
yeah, locally, there's a shuttle. The 24 shuttle bus is local. There are also bus pass community church, the one up on the hill up by Taco Bell, so everybody knows it, one the upside down Noah's Ark. And those are often made available to Sebastopol Christian for the shower program. So that's a way to get back and forth to or to the courts. And I think, as Adrian mentioned, and it came up in a meeting we had today, ride shares. The Sebastopol Christian Church is really a single point of contact for homeless services. And it's a way, if people wanted to say, hey, I can give a ride to somebody, that would be a place to offer your name, put it on file. So if somebody needed a ride, you might be available to get a ride, and that would be a way to really connect with homeless directly.
Beautiful. And then we've got a couple questions about this whole idea of tiny house villages. Has there been any exploration? Does either the city of Sebastopol or the county have any land that would be available for that? And has that been explored? And then what's been the response from the homeless community about that tiny house concept?
I can't speak for the land. I think that's a city council person's.
Yeah, we
question.
could have a city council person chime in here.
I can say that when Los Guilicos opened, which was, they're small, tiny bedrooms. They're not full houses with kitchens and bathrooms. And a lot of people were a little not so sure they was going to be happy up there. Now we've gone through 30 people who went through there, got housing, and 30 more people, 60 more people. And there's a big waiting list. And when I talk to people and say, you know, what would work for you, they almost always say Los Guilicos. And it does have transportation problems. So you see there's something about that is popular. People see it as a way forward.
Yeah. Anyone else, any thoughts about the tiny house concept, what the response is from our homeless community? And is there been any progress that anyone knows of countywide on getting more of those concepts in place?
There's a small one in Windsor for veterans that's been around for about 2 years. It's popular. It's not as cheap as sometimes you might think. A true tiny home can be $50,000, $60,000, $70,000, but it's faster and less expensive than what Arthur's been talking about. It's kind of the mega projects for sure.
Got it.
Yeah, just to chime in, I just want to reinforce that the real challenge is, in fact, finding the land. I think that will always be the challenge. So it requires someone who is generally going to be a private landowner who decides to step up and just donate their land, and that's a big ask. Giving up your land for community interest, it's a wonderful thing to do, but you are giving something up. So I think that's the piece of the equation that Tim Miller and that Adrian and that others would identify as the primary challenge. After that, then you can see the funding flow coming through. So hopefully, crossing fingers and hoping that something will develop. I will say on the safe overnight parking piece that there is a lot of progress happening on that topic.
I'd just like to chime in for a second too, and that just to mention that, so the Park Village, which Tim and WCCS manage, is in a way almost like a tiny home project, because, and it was actually less expensive because it's on city property, but we got donated, or Tim and his colleagues got donated trailers. So it's a tiny home trailer park, which was probably the most cost-effective homeless response that's, I think probably in the county. I mean, we did it on a shoestring and it has been incredibly effective, and WCCS has done an incredible job managing it.
Great. And I see, Sarah, you want to chime in here as well.
Oh, Catherine, thank you for noticing. I want to add this point about the public property. The city owns 5 parking lots that are free municipal parking lots. So we have this tension. We are going to have to give up our safe and convenient parking everywhere in town if we want to use public land. Which do we want? Housing for our people, or do we want to store a car there?
Thank you so much. Such a good point. One last question. We've got just a couple more minutes here. One of our Facebook Live viewers said, I heard Ron say that 20% of Food for Thought's clients are homeless. I'm wondering how long 20% of the population has been homeless. So I want to clarify, just because 20% of Food for Thought's clients are homeless does not mean 20% of the population is homeless. Those are two different things. And I guess the underlying question is, do we have any data about whether or not homelessness has increased over the past 10 years? And if so, to what extent? And I used to know the data for the county, but I'm not that in touch with it right now. So maybe we can answer it just for our community. Is there any understanding of whether homelessness has increased, and if so, by how much?
Well,
The numbers.
I was just going to respond real quickly. We serve a population of people that are already challenged, and most of our clients have incomes under $20,000 a year. So, like you said before, people are one emergency away from becoming homeless, and given the increase in rents and housing problems in Sonoma County, it's no wonder that a lot of people have drifted below what they could piece together to have a home to now being homeless. So that's why we're seeing so many of our clients that are homeless.
Yeah, I agree. Laura, any last questions before we turn over? We have 2 more minutes. We've been very, very good in our use of time. I think we covered a lot of ground.
I would like to address that last question of the stability of homelessness, because you will see almost every year people applauding the service providers who have done well. And seriously, it's a lot of work to house 30 people. But over time, the population of homeless people has been very, very stable, roaming around 3,000 people through Sonoma County. And we need to sort of deal with that hole instead of sort of poking at 100 people here and 100 people there.
Yeah. Very good. Well, I want to thank the amazing leaders on this panel for the work that they do every day to support our community, and especially those who are most in need in our community. And hopefully those of you who are listening got really inspired about the incredible work that's being done and heard something that got you excited personally in terms of how you can be part of that solution, whether it's with land or cash contributions or time, helping to make food or to drive someone somewhere. So please do step forward and reach out to these organizations and be part of the solution for our community. So with that, I'm going to turn it back, I think, over, I'm not sure, Diana, if you're taking it from here to the next panel, but really huge gratitude to all of you for the work that you're doing.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much for doing all that great reading and writing. The other questions, I think anybody who didn't get their question answered, all the resources that are going through the chat, there's such wealth of information to access. So go find out the answers. Sorry, we couldn't get to all the questions about how many units of homeless or low income housing. And there's a lot of good questions coming through. We just ran out of time, but there's the resources that are streaming on the chat are amazing. So it's a great opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you to a wonderful couple of facilitators here, Catherine Couch from Ceres and Laura Schaefer from the Grange. And thank you also to our great panelists. We had, as a reminder, Arthur George from West County Homeless Advocates, Herman Hernandez Sr. from Los Cien, and Ron Karp from Food for Thought, and of course, Tim Miller from West County Community Services, and Adrian Lauby from Saves and Homeless Action out of Santa Rosa. Thank you to everyone. We're now going to take a 5-minute break. We will come back with Nisa Hinton, Council Member Nisa Hinton, who will introduce our next panel, which is Mental Health and Schools. And that'll be right about 5:19. So you have 3 minutes for that bio break. And please do take advantage of the link that should show up any minute now that will take you to the Google form where you can express interest in any particular topics, follow up so we can reach out to you. Amazing group, amazing comments, incredibly specific ideas, incredibly specific questions. I love all of it. So thank you for starting us off. And now we're going to go kind of quiet to the slideshow, and we'll be back in now 2 minutes. Bye. Thank you.
Okay.
And if everyone could please mute yourselves, that would be awesome, including me muting Diana. Thanks. Hey folks, I think we are back on here. So thank you again to everyone who has been participating here. It's just an incredible opportunity, all these people contributing and staying engaged. You know, this is what we need to do to get out of this period of time when it seemed a little isolating. Hey, we're embracing it now. So wonderful food and housing panel, great ideas. I hope that you notice the slides, because those slides are highlighting for all of us, underscoring all of the amazing groups that are meeting those food and housing needs. It isn't just the panelists that you're seeing here. They're compelling, they're experts, they're amazing. The message is very inclusive, but there are so many other organizations out there that are meeting these needs and that are looking for engagement. So please do pay attention to those and to the guide, where you'll see all of the logos and the organizations, clickable links to get to their websites. So, you know, satisfy your curiosity, go and check that out. We're now going into the next panel, just as exciting as the last. This one is mental health and schools. We have a couple of great facilitators coming, and the person who will be introducing this panel is our own council member, Nisa Hinton. Nisa, are you live out there, ready to go?
I am live and ready to go. So it's been a great summit so far. Thanks, of course, to everyone that's helped organize this, my colleagues and on the city council and staff. I'm really excited about this panel because having raised 2 children in Sebastopol who went through the public school system, and also having utilized services from SAY and done some fundraising, this is going to be a really great panel. So let me introduce the folks in charge of it. First, we have Hal, as I think it's Cal Washer of the Rotary Club of Sebastopol. I know I'm completely butchering that, so I apologize right up front. And David Mark Raymond from Sebastopol Sunrise Rotary Club. And remember to use the chat. It looks like everybody is. It keeps popping up for me, new chat. So, and take it away. Thanks.
Well, thank you very much, Nisa. This panel has an interesting origin, which I'll get to in a second. But first, I would like to introduce my panelists. First, David Mark Raymond, whom Nisa has already introduced, is going to be looking at your questions. And as we turn this over into question time, David will be posing questions to the panel. Then, if I can, I just briefly want to introduce the panel so you know who everybody is. There's Elizabeth Smith from Sonoma County PACES, Shauna Ferdinandson from Annalee High School, Brooke Ransom Burr from Social Advocates for Youth, David Rose from the Gravenstein School District, and Renee Semick from the Forestville School District. Now, let me just set the context of the panel. We got lots of responses from mental health organizations. We got lots of responses from schools. They covered many areas, not just mental health issues among the youth. But the interesting thing to us was that both the mental health organizations and the schools emphasized the significance of mental health issues among students. And so we decided this was a matter of some urgency, and it would be a great thing to put these 2 groups together for a robust discussion of mental health among our youth in West County. The way I'd like to start this off is to have 2 of our panelists, Elizabeth Smith and Dave Rose, each take about 3 minutes to explain to you why mental health in the schools is such an urgent topic right now. And Elizabeth, if you could go first, this for 3 minutes.
Hi. Yeah, I would love to share why it is of urgency. We had the pleasure of having the Sonoma County epidemiologist join our Sonoma County ACEs Connection meeting last month, and she shared the 2020 mortality report for Sonoma County. There has been a 12% increase of excess deaths in Sebastopol. They broke it down by geography, and a significantly higher than expected death rate for ages 13 to 34 from drug overdose, heart disease, suicide, unintentional injury, cancer, so on and so forth, which all could be related to ACEs, health conditions, And so if you're not familiar with ACEs, this is a study that Kaiser and CDC did that stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences, which has a tremendous impact on future violence, victimization, and lifelong health effects and opportunities. So it's basically a level of your assessment of trauma. So if children have experienced ACEs during this pandemic, which it's very, very likely they have experienced some level of trauma, then we anticipate that our mortality report for future generations could increase. There's been limited opportunity for positive childhood experiences and community engagement. The excessive screen time that is being expected of children all the way down into preschool level, it affects the vision, the brain development, it affects the deficits in attention, irritability, sleep issues, difficulty in self-regulation, the isolation, and really just the toxic stress that families are experiencing. It could potentially ripple down to our children. So it is of high urgency that we tackle the mental health for our schools right now. And serving also as a trustee for Sebastopol Union, I'm definitely getting a lot more information of how it is affecting our children. And certainly through Sonoma County ACEs Connection, you know, we're hearing the ripple effect. And also being a parent myself, you know, we're personally experiencing a certain level of trauma and toxic stress. So having less access to community and positive childhood experiences. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Dave, do you want to fill in here?
Sure, that's a tough act to follow, but I'll give it a shot. I want to talk a little bit more about the ACEs study that Elizabeth mentioned, the Adverse Childhood Experiences study. This is a study that has really reframed the way schools look at mental health for their students over the last decade. This is 25, 26 years in education for me. A lot of my time has been spent with direct student services and trying to support students and have them overcome barriers. So lots of times in my meetings, I will be asking somebody why they're doing this and why they're doing that. And those of you that have had teenagers know that you often hear, I don't know. And what we're coming to find out is that answer could not be more accurate in terms of the reasons why students sometimes make the choices and the behaviors that they do. The ACEs study looked at 10 different types of behaviors of college-educated, employed people, and they narrowed this down to 10 different traumatic events that had happened in the lives of these people while they were young that impacted their health later on. Those 10 areas were abuse, physical, sexual, or verbal, neglect, physical or emotional. It was a family member that was depressed or suffering from a mental illness, or addicted to alcohol or drugs, or was incarcerated. If a lot of the members of this study had domestic abuse happening in their household, or they'd lost a parent due to separation, divorce, or death. When we talk about those events happening in the lifetime of a student, we know as educators and our partner agencies in mental health, it's not just 10, there's 30, 40, 50 different things that could be happening in the lifetime of a young person that really creates a traumatic effect on their biological system. And not to get too technical on it, but cortisol is one of our neurotransmitters that allows us to heighten our awareness and do our fight, flight, or freeze and our escape behaviors. And that's healthy for us. And Nadine Burke-Harris, who is the current California Surgeon General, when she talks about ACEs and she's explaining this study, she goes, well, that's a really great thing to happen if you're in the forest and you see a bear. It's not a great thing when that bear comes home every single night and you have to live with that bear in your house. When that cortisol level is that high for those students, and Elizabeth mentioned some of these things, it affects the regulatory systems for a child. It interrupts sleep patterns. It interrupts their ability to process information, and it very much stops them from learning. And when we have those elevated cortisol levels, a student walking into a classroom that gets a simple redirect from a teacher. Jimmy, I told you not to wear your hat. Well, 9 times out of 10, Jimmy's just going to take his hat off. But if Jimmy has a high ACE score and there's lots of trauma happening in his life, and he's in that fight flight mode 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that is typically going to end in some type of conflict, confrontation. He's going to fight, he's going to fly, he's going to stop coming to school, or he's going to freeze. He's going to want to disappear in the corner of the classroom. If that is the conditions that those students are coming onto our campus in, it's virtually impossible for them to process information, to engage with a teacher, to learn, to grow and develop socially, and to go through the processes of normal development that were set up. That cortisol system is nature's alarm system, but it's not meant to be ringing all day long.
Okay, Dave, that's great. I appreciate it.
Okay,
Now,
one last thing, Hal.
Go ahead.
Before the pandemic, before the wildfires, 1 in 4 kids in our county, 1 in 4 had an ACE score of over 4, which becomes a significant level. We don't even know what that level is now. So the mental health issues that were in place prior to this are just more significant now.
Thank you. That's great. Now what I'd like to do is to have each of our 5 panelists take about 3 minutes and tell us what they're doing to address the question of mental health in the schools, and also address how they could improve what they're doing with the help of all of the people here in the audience, with either money or time or support. And to start us off on that, I'd like to ask Renee Semick if she could address the question.
Hi, good evening, everybody. As I was introduced, I'm the superintendent and middle school principal in Forestville Union Elementary District. I'm finishing my 2nd year. It's been a great time to start, but I work for with an incredible community in the larger community of West County, so I'm very thankful for that. In terms of addressing mental health at Forestville, I recognized when I got to Forestville that we did not have a social emotional learning curriculum or program that was being used in the TK through 8, which spans our district, with any kind of fidelity. So one of the things we did at the end of last year was adopt Leader in Me, which is based on Covey's 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and focusing in on and using the strengths of what our students bring daily with them to really foster leadership and success in school. We launched it this year, as you can imagine, really difficult to kind of transition in a digital world, but our teachers and staff really gave it their best effort, recognizing that walking through some of these lessons and trying to empower our students as much as possible in this digital learning age wasn't easy, but very, very necessary. So that was one of the things we did. We also have a part-time counselor who is a mental health specialist that comes in. Somebody asked in the chat, right now they're 2 days a week and they're 6 hours each day. And I can tell you, we could probably have we could probably have a full-time counselor for our 260 students, just based on kind of the trauma and disruption that our students and communities lived through over the last several years in particular. One of the other things that we did was we partnered with the County Office of Education, who received a grant, and what they did this year and will continue to do for the next couple of years is screen all students for trauma, looking for what Dave and Elizabeth were talking about related to ACEs. This could be the effects from fire, flood, or pandemic, but this could also be what they're living with or what they've experienced at home, or within their family unit, or within their community. So that all of our students will be screened, and they're looking for very specific things. And then the counseling then, if students qualify with a significant amount of ACEs or trauma, will be provided through the County Office of Ed and their partners. I also want to talk about a little bit, what we also know is ACEs is kind of, you hear also PACEs, which is that positive adverse, or positive childhood experiences as well. And so what we also try to do in Forestville is develop and create a sense of belonging. And it's not just the academics, but looking at, we have a tremendous drama program. So we're looking at bringing the curtain back up next year. We're very excited about that. It's a very extensive, big program. If you've ever been to one of our productions in the fall, it's our older students that have been in the program for a while. But in the spring, it really will span kind of TK8 students that want to get involved. Athletics, we were reviving our athletics program, looking for new uniforms and things like that. Again, that sense of belonging if you were an athlete in junior high or high school like I was, really giving you that connection to place, really giving you that connection to school, in addition to peer support and another trusted adult as a coach. We have a vibrant and thriving music and art program that we have all of our students participate in. And we're also looking to bring in a strings after school for our upper class 7th and 8th graders next year to partner with the high school district.
Okay, thanks very much, Renee. We can get back to this at the end because we've got a separate question about other things other than mental health and youth.
You're right.
Next, I'd like to ask Brooke Ransom Burr from Social Advocates for Youth if she can address our question. Brooke, are you on? Oh, there you are.
Hey.
The floor is yours. You may need to unmute yourself. There you go. No.
Let's come back to Brooke.
Right, I agree.
Let's do that.
Shauna Ferdinandson, are you there? Shauna is the principal of Annalee High.
Hi there.
You're the principal of the new school next year. Shauna, where's yours?
Okay, thank you so much. And I have to say that everybody is actually a very hard act to follow. I think you're all bringing up some incredibly important points about what's happening to our students right now during the pandemic, but also what was happening prior to the pandemic. And so I believe that what we are seeing right now is going to be a real combination of what has it been like for our students who are on distance learning for over a year, and what sorts of social emotional things did not happen for them where they have not been able to progress. And so I'm very, very concerned about that. Prior to the pandemic, and I'm sure that when we come back full-time in August, we have been dealing with a lot of students who have documented and diagnosed anxiety. Anxiety is huge, and it has all kinds of effects on our students' ability to learn in the classroom. And we are doing a lot of things here at Annalee, and we will continue next year when we might be called, a different high school name, because as you may know, we are looking to consolidate with El Molino. So far, we are addressing in a lot of different ways. So we have MFT, so we have marriage family therapists that we hire, and we have them here on campus full time, which has been amazing. And we also, next year, we have a class that is dedicated to students who need some added support around mental health issues. And that will be one class that we offer for students. And we're scheduling it very intentionally in the morning, because we're finding that if we can get those students who are really suffering from anxiety to get to school, that's the hardest part. Once we get them here, we can keep them. It's getting them from their house into the school. So we are creating a class that takes place in the morning. We are also redoing our bell schedule, and I'll save you some of the details, but we're redoing our bell schedule in a way that will allow for students to feel a smaller community here at school. So we have about 1,100 students this year, next year about 1,600. So we are really going to need to kind of make a big school feel kind of small. And we are working on that through our bell schedule and adding in some other classes. Is this the time when we're also supposed to say what it is that we really are looking for and needing?
Go right ahead. Go for it.
Well, okay. I didn't want to ask too soon. I have a couple of different things, and my overall theme is about connection. So the overall theme about connection here at the high school is I am attempting to find a way to reach every single student at school, which is, of course, there is no one quick fix for doing any of that. So we need a lot of different approaches. One major driving force for students to attend school is sports. Another one would be clubs that they really enjoy, certain types of electives that they enjoy. It turns out about half of our students, so approximately 500 students, are involved in sports and clubs. But then we have another half of the campus that does not participate in traditional sports or in clubs that are offered on campus. And so I am looking to create one program that I think will draw in many, many students. And that is, I am trying to start an e-sports club. Now, as a lady in my 50s, I have to tell you, I am not a video game aficionado, okay? I don't play myself, but I happen to know many, many people who do. In fact, I know about 1,100 of them here at school. So many of our students do play video games. And for those of us who are not really up on video games, I would like you to know that there is a league. There's an actual sports league where the students play as a team. And they wear jerseys and they have a coach and they connect. And instead of playing alone in their rooms, what they would do is that they would play here at school where it is safe, where we have the coach that is involved. And I'm attempting to start that because most of the students who consider themselves gamers do not play traditional sports or join clubs. So I'm trying to find something that I think will speak to them, and it speaks to male and female and across other ethnicities that we have across the school.
Shauna, could I interrupt there and just ask you maybe to hold it and see if we can fit some more discussion of this in at the end so we can finish this round of questions? Brooke, how are you doing? Are you with us?
I think so. Can you hear me?
There you are. You're terrific. There you go.
Thank you. I'm the Director of Counseling at Social Advocates for Youth, and I'm here to talk about our school mental health program. We developed this program over a decade ago, really for a variety of reasons. One of those reasons is we recognize there's so many barriers for youth to get access to services. And I agree, like, even though before these past few years of disasters in the pandemic, the need for mental health support in youth has been very high, and it's just really brought to the awareness and higher now. And we recognize there's barriers of financial, transportation, or lack of parent involvement to get youth into therapy. And so we helped create these programs at these school districts to really meet the youth where they're at. And we really have a goal of, and schools are where they are and where we can support students who may not have mental health support otherwise. And we really developed this program to decrease social emotional barriers to learning so kids can be really present in their education. We contract how we traditionally do these programs is we contract with schools or school districts, and we really tailor our services to what schools are needing the most. And what we're finding is that they are wanting us to have our highly trained and thoughtful and mindful clinicians come in and really support the youth who are having emerging or really high mental health needs by doing more individual or group therapeutic support. And our clinicians are coming in and they're very trauma aware, they're providing trauma-informed therapy, and it's really goal-based. So they're really meeting the students where they are and what their goals are and building those skills. Throughout that time, we're also constantly assessing for risk. So suicide ideation, self-harm, harm to others, and really building that support system of loving, caring humans around the student so they can be empowered to use those skills to take care of themselves and learn more about their emotions, thoughts, and behaviors. We have a successful program. We've been, like I said, more in Santa Rosa area. We do in West County, we are working with REACH, providing services at REACH Charter. And we're hopefully negotiating with another school district to be in more next year. And what we're finding is a huge barrier of our services is funding, is that some of the school districts that really are interested and want our services is due to the ebbs and flows of funding on both sides, our side and their side. It's hard to get these services on campus. So if I had one ask, I know the community is really supportive of these youth getting community mental health services, again, by well-trained, thoughtful therapists. But we need some financial support so we can balance that cost for schools so we can really be there and serve the youth.
Thank you very much, Brooke. Elizabeth, how about discussing PACEs and what you're doing and what your asks might be?
Sure, yeah, I can do that, absolutely. So, you know, I come wearing a very unique hat in that, yes, I am the community manager for Sonoma County ACEs Connection, also a trustee for Sebastopol Union School District, and a Peacetown board member. And so we have the family village, and often those all intersect for me, as that's a strength that I can bring to these groups, is connecting them. And that's why I'm a part of all of them. And I love supporting each of these organizations and really tapping into that connection. So as far as Sonoma County ACEs Connection goes, we have not officially rolled over to Sonoma County PACEs Connection. I think that might be a little bit of a slow progress, which again, the P is positive. So it's positive and adverse childhood experiences. Really what the ask is for Sonoma County ACEs Connection is just awareness. So if you have an organization where I can come and present about Sonoma County ACEs Connection, how we can collaborate, how we can support the work that you're doing, and how your work can support the work that we're doing. So it's really taking all of these siloed efforts and bringing us together and making Sonoma County ACEs Connection a really wonderful collaborative effort where we're getting that community voice, as well as the different organizations that are doing such amazing work. And we have so many on the call, such as Grabenstein Health Action and Dovetail, and there's a lot of wonderful organizations that attend our meetings, and you know, we're all doing wonderful work together. That's the key word, is we're doing things together. As far as me personally, what my needs would be for all these different hats that I wear, I'd really love to put some emphasis into how we can support our young people and our families. I know that this, you know, we're going on over 400 days of, you know, awkward isolation and lack of community connection. So my ask would really be on behalf of Peacetown Family Village, which again does encompass all of these organizations that I do. If you're not familiar with the work that Peacetown Family Village and Peacetown, you know, because we're one, the work that we've done throughout the pandemic this entire time. So let me back up even further. So there's the Peacetown Summer Concert Series. We're now a nonprofit, and we are expanding out to that. One of the newer programs has been the Family Village. I've been so very fortunate to be allowed to begin the Family Village. And so that started off by every week during the Summer Concert Series, we had different organizations coming, sharing information. We sectioned off a whole area at Peacetown. And then COVID happened. We were really building traction. We had hundreds of families coming in, playing with one another, building those positive connections, having access to local resources, and then COVID. So then we branched off to doing peace bags and making really amazing videos. One of them was by my amazing son, who is taking the time to be here on this call, I got to throw a shameless plug. He is the new local who makes a difference, and he's a young person and a student of Annalee and really has a vested interest in the community. But anyway, So my ask would be, I want to collaborate more. I want to be able to provide connections and events and things for the community that are really tapping into those positive childhood experiences and providing resources for family. Yeah, so that would be my biggest ask, for providing situations for young people to come and volunteer, whether it be little young people like my beautiful little daughter who you just saw, or teenagers. You know, they've played a big role in Peacetown. And so, you know, that's my biggest ask is volunteers. Funding would be great. 100% of what I do is volunteer. I really, really wish there was a job description that would pay me for the work that I do, but it is volunteer because I can see the vision and I want to invest in the community that I live in. For Sonoma County ACES Connection,
Okay,
I'm feeling a little rushed.
Liz?
So, okay, good. I thought my time was up.
And Dave Rose, I guess you're the last one to address what you're doing and what people might do to help you out.
Thanks, Hal. So as we look at what we're trying to do, and it was mentioned by both Shauna and Renee, we have a series of activities and events that are meant to be high engagement and to promote relationships with our students on campus. Small class sizes, leadership events, outdoors, gardening, high interest things, all TK through 8, where our students are getting extra enrichment periods every day on campus. And that gets us connection with those students. And Shauna said, if we can get them on campus, then that's the biggest part of the battle, because then our wonderful staff can begin working with them and lowering their cortisol levels and engaging with them. It's getting them here that is half that battle. Most of our students on most days are getting what they need. And so that's our universal prevention program. On some students, for some days, their cortisol levels, their level of trauma, their inability to connect with us shines through. But one of the things I tell staff as I'm explaining this program, public schools have been around for 400 years. If there was one program that worked for all students, somebody would have come up with it by now. It doesn't exist. And so it's the individual attention and individual intervention that needs to happen at that next level. If that base program is not working, we have to find out who that student is, what their trauma history is, what community partners we can connect them with, and what we can do for them here on campus to make a difference in their life and engage them in terms of the educational process. So for our district, we have trained all of our staff on ACEs, on trauma-informed education, and in recognizing signs and symptoms and what those things are, fight, flight, freeze, and what that looks like. So all of our staff are trauma-informed so that they can identify those students and make sure they're making those connections. We have an academic counselor full-time. We also have hired a mental health counselor. And so we have a full-time MFT for a district of like 780 students. Having a full-time MFT is a big carry, but it's something that we feel so important because that second level of intervention where it's personalized, where it has a mental health foundation is so important. In terms of the ask for us for Gravenstein Union, one of the biggest things is we now have this counselor, but we don't have confidential counseling space for this counselor to meet with students. So right now she's meeting at picnic tables and borrowing empty classrooms. We'd like to move my office and our business services office into a portable classroom somewhere. So if somebody's got a portable with a bathroom that's in good shape, we'd love to know it. We'll move it. If there's a portable out there, we'd love to hear about it. We'd also like to increase our counseling services. So if we could find a way to raise an additional $25,000 a year, we could offer stipends for interns and trainees to get their work on our campus, to work with our lower level students and be supervised and get that training that they need from our licensed supervisor who can supervise mental health intern candidates. So those are the two big ones. Elizabeth talked about collaboration community-wide. We'd love to have some type of thing where it's a series of community family education events. If each of us in our small districts are going through all of the work to try to put something on, and then we wind up with a dozen people there, that's a lot of effort. But if we could do it community-wide, where we have this series of family engagement, parent education activities and events going on, we get some help coordinating that, we could get many more parents there and provide a lot more base information.
Thanks very much, Dave. Now, I have the same question to two of our panelists, Elizabeth and Renee. As you've heard me say, we have lots of people who responded to the survey who are not on the panel. So I was hoping that the two of you might highlight some of the good things you know about in organizations other than the ones you represent. Renee, why don't you start off?
I'll jump in. First and foremost, I want to share that West County superintendents work really, really closely together. We often meet after the entire county superintendents will meet to discuss kind of what we learned and what we need to do in addition, but how that really impacts us. But also there's a sharing of resources, ideas, expertise. If somebody has a problem, question, or concern, very quickly, kind of the West County superintendents can rally around each other and at least get a question answered or something addressed. So one of the partnerships that I'd love to highlight is Guerneville's work with West County Union High School District's work too with the West County Health Centers. This provided testing and vaccination support in real time. And it's kind of started there, but really spread out. And we were, all the districts in West County were invited to participate both in testing and vaccines when that was just really getting started. They were really on the forefront. And again, because we work so closely together, it was just an immediate reach out to all of us to help share with our communities, to help fight all of this and support everybody in the pandemic. I know that Harmony as well is continuing to work with their restorative practices, as well as, like Dave said, similar in Gravenstein, their trauma-informed teaching practices as well. So we all learn, we all take kind of an all boats rise approach, I would say, in West County, looking at all of our students and recognizing that within our neighboring districts, if someone needs help, all you got to do is ask. And I really wanted to echo, and it's been in the chat a little bit too, and Dave mentioned it, but also just that collaboration with outside agencies to partner. We often really do well in that kind of universal approach or that kind of level one. But when we have students and families that are really, really struggling in kind of that tier 2 or tier 3 support, we often don't have all of the wraparound services or all the support that we need right here locally at, I would say, at my site. We have them kind of community wide, but being able to kind of partner and work together, I would say that those are the things that we definitely need. So I want to echo those points and just highlight some things, other things that are going on in West County in terms of school.
Thanks very much. So for the last question to the panel, Elizabeth, any other organizations whose work you'd like to highlight?
Yeah, I don't know that I have enough time to list them all. We are so very
just
fortunate.
take a minute or two very briefly.
I will. Yes, I will. So Peacetown, of course, they're doing a lot of work. The Sebastopol Union School District is doing a lot of work. We have such a wonderful superintendent that goes above and beyond to make connections among our community and provide wonderful resources for their teachers. Parent Voices Sonoma, which is a grassroots parent advocacy group. Shoes for Kids, which is a wonderful, wonderful organization that provides shoes for children in need. And there's nothing like having that new pair of shoes on your feet. So that's a wonderful organization. Dovetail is another wonderful, super fantastic organization that provides trainings and workshops and parent groups. Toyworks is not necessarily an organization, but that is a wonderful local business that does a lot of work to support children and families aside from just selling toys. They're always willing to collaborate and provide their space. So we're really grateful to them. Sebastopol Center for the Arts, they've been doing a wonderful job of providing services for children by providing that learning hub environment. ELI, Early Learning Institute, Child Parent Institute, both of them offer lots of resources for communities, parenting workshops, resources for teachers and staff. DeMolay is a super wonderful organization that is a fraternity for boys. There's also a women or a girls program, I believe it's called.
Liz, could you, that's a great list, and I appreciate you doing that. David, let's turn it over to you for some questions.
10 minutes?
Sure.
10 questions. Be fast. Okay. We are hearing about the need for volunteers. Many participants who are with us today have personal experience from their school days in volunteering. We know that it builds skills, self-esteem, a positive identity, and engagement for students. Do you envision a way that we can match students and community needs? Shauna.
Okay. Yes, I have to say, I mean, obviously this past year, we have not been able to have any volunteers on the campus. And absolutely, there are all kinds of things that we would need at the high school level. And some of it would, and I've been contacted by many community members who have retired, and they're retired engineers, they're retired math teachers, or they are retired counselors who maybe just want to come to campus to see what they can do. So absolutely, we have a lot of different needs around everything from tutoring to kind of that social emotional support that does not necessarily need to be at the therapist level, but someone to come in and maybe even host groups and do things like different tutoring sessions with different types of classes. So
that's great, Shauna, but I actually want to ask a slightly different question now. Okay. I hope you don't mind the interruption. No. How can students be engaged in volunteering to help out with great volunteer needs that we're hearing about today for other organizations? So getting students, not thinking about them as students there, but as volunteers.
I think that when our students, we have a lot of different clubs that we have on campus that are focused on service. And so when we know what the needs are, that is when I can get in touch very easily with our different club advisors and list all of the different volunteering opportunities, because our students love to volunteer, and they volunteer all over the campus doing all kinds of things and off campus. So if I had the list, I would hand them out to our different service organizations and also our college and career coordinator. They would be able to disseminate that information to our students. And I think that they would really step up for that.
That's perfect. Thank you. The Senior Center wrote that they see the following issues as pressing for our senior population: isolation, the need for resources and referrals, food insecurity, and transportation needs. They have a phone buddy program to provide regular check-in and wellness calls. Do anybody on this panel see that as a potential marriage of the needs of students to have a way to belong and include, and reaching out to seniors? Open question for anybody. Unmute all of yourselves.
I think that would be something wonderful to explore for Sebastopol Union. Of course, we'd have to take that to the board and the superintendent to see if that's a great fit. I know that the Castle program, the summer program, which is an extension of Sebastopol Union, we're looking for free ways to provide summer activities that are low cost. So, I mean, that could potentially be a great collaboration, having the little people with the senior centers, or, I mean, Annalie as well. I could see, I mean, I'm speaking for Shauna, but I could see my son rounding up some friends to go and support that cause as well.
I don't know if you saw in the chat, but they also said in terms of the senior center, iPhone and smartphone tutoring help for seniors in addition to kind of tech support. So just thinking, Shauna, about half of your kids, and what you're looking for in terms of gaming and all of that. there's experts and whizzes that would love to go over there and help them out.
Absolutely. I think we could have everybody with their own Snapchat account and get them on TikTok. And, we would have no problem doing that.
Are there mentor programs to help with homework, job search, college admissions, etc.?
Yes. And I'm not sure if that was just directed to me.
It's directed to everybody on the panel. Just jump on it rather than me pick you.
Okay. Yes, we do have all kinds of outreach. And actually, what's funny is that I just got distracted with my phone because I'm also doing soccer supervision duty. So I have to keep looking to make sure everything's okay. I need the question again. Sorry.
Are there mentor programs to help with homework, job search, college admissions, etc.?
Yes, but I wouldn't exactly call it a mentor program, but we do have services here at school. We have our counselors and our college and career counselor who helps students access all of the different forms they need for college, like the FAFSA, which is where people find out if they are eligible for financial aid. And we have all kinds of after-school tutoring that is we pay for the after-school tutoring. It's by teachers, but it's free to all of the students.
And Dave, what can non-professionals do to help?
So any type of classroom support, if somebody would like to come and talk about their profession, talk about their history, family lineage, our teachers are always looking for different guest speakers for their classrooms. We have a variety of different field trips and things like that, and we're always looking for extra chaperones. So if there were a group that had an organization of volunteers, we'd go through our volunteer vetting process, and we'd create some activities.
Thank you. And Renee, are there opportunities for students to explore learning out of doors or manual experiences in general?
Well, it's a great question to us because we had a thriving garden until about 3 or 4 years ago, and our goal is to revive it. And we need a total overhaul. So in terms of even putting in the water source and the whole 9 yards, we had to move it. So, but the goal then is to have a completely working garden. If you've been on Harmony's campus, Salmon Creek, you have some vision of what that may look like for us. We have about the same size space. But then our middle schoolers would tend it as part of their enrichment and electives, and also allow all of our students K through 8 to, get in, get their hands dirty, really work and watch things grow, in addition to then using the harvest. So.
Thank you. So how do the police and mental health interact in the school environment? That's an open question for anybody that cares to respond.
So in the history of working with Sonoma County law enforcement, it is so critical that police and mental health are working side by side. As we have students that are facing traumatic experiences either at school or in their home, it is so critical for that officer that's responding on scene to have as much information about that student and the situation. And our mental health agencies and even our school counselors are great resources. And if it's something that happens on the basis of campus, the administrators and the counselors have a great deal of information that they can preface that officer with. An officer showing up on campus again becomes the potential trauma for that student. And if it can be softened or connected in any way, those agencies working together are just critical.
Thank you. This next question is open for anybody too. Laguna High School in their response was saying that they are modifying their curriculum to a project-based multidisciplinary plan designed to engage students in their own education. So across the spectrum, project-based, I believe. They hope for connections to local businesses and organizations for mentoring experiences. Do any of you anticipate similar needs for the more traditional students that are not in a continuation school? Do you see this as a future?
And David, I'm going to interject here and just let everyone know that this is going to be our last question. Our time is up on this very interesting topic, so go ahead.
The question's there. We can withdraw and move on if you like.
No, let's hear it. Personally, I want to hear it, just saying.
I would say the quick answer to that is absolutely yes. So we are wanting, and we are actually in the process right now of securing a long-term grant that helps us to align our school classes to the needs of local industry. And in meeting those needs, we will need connections, we will need internships. And so absolutely Laguna will need that. And so will the new high school.
You all have been fabulous. Thank you very much. So I believe it's time for us to move on to the next stuff. And I just so appreciate the folk who are here today. You're all inspiring and welcome.
And if I could just add, thank you very much. It was a great panel. I appreciate you all taking the time to do this.
Hey, everyone, virtual hand clap. Hooray.
Thank you so much.
Really great. Thank you so much to our wonderful facilitators, Hal Qualwasser, hey, I pronounced it right, Rotary Club of Sebastopol, and David Mark Raymond with the Sunrise Rotary Club, and also with to our wonderful panelists who really gave us an incredible overview, telling us not just about what they had going and what they needed, but I think really giving us a really good flavor of what's needed in general in our community. That was Shauna Ferdinandson from Annalee High School, Brooke Ransom Burr from Social Advocates for Youth, and we had Elizabeth Smith. I think she was wearing the Sonoma County ACES hat today, but she's got so many of them. And then David Rose from Gravenstein School and Renee Semick from Forestville School. Thank you so much. I would like to remind everyone to make sure you check the box. There's a link there to a get involved form. So please do fill out that form. It's an easy way for us to track what you might want to help support in any number of ways. We're now going, and I do want to give I will put their link in there, but the time bank is a really great way to connect everyone. I do want to give everyone bathroom bio break time. You're going to see some slides come up, and then we are going into a couple of panel discussions that'll be relatively brief, not as much time as we had here, but the next one is environment, and it'll be introduced by Patrick Slater in about 3 minutes. And then we will have community enrichment introduced by Nisa Hinton. So we will be back here in about, looks like we're here at 6:14. So you have 1 minute for a bio break. See you in a few. Thank you. So, how's it going, do you think? I thought you did good. Hello, everyone. Well, now that was a brief bio break. Okay, we are now going into our next panel, which will be introduced by Council Member Patrick Slater. I do want to remind anyone who needs Spanish translation or needs closed captioning that we do have that available. You click on the globe at the very bottom down there, and we'll ask Herman Hernandez Sr. to put a Spanish version of what I just said, because he's much better at this, in the chat box. So that's going on. I do want to applaud everyone who has been engaging in discussion, providing links to other organizations, offering suggestions, connections. I've seen a lot of connections happening in the chat box. So that's wonderful. We will be retaining the information in the chat box. We're not sure quite how we're going to be sharing all of it, but Commission, and I do want to give a shout out to Commission. They're handling all the back end on this, all the organizational piece, all of the documents. They will be working with the city to figure out what the next step is, because I think all of us are recognizing there is a lot of next steps here. It's one of the most exciting pieces of it. And the cross-pollination, seeing an organization that you might perceive as dealing with the homeless, also pitching in on commentary regarding youth and mental health, that's all important. So we're now going to go into environment, our final panel. This is a fairly short panel. It's a half hour. And Patrick Slater, Council Member Slater, please, a guy who works a lot to improve Sonoma clean power, a lot of environmental interests here. So go, please introduce them, Council Member Slater.
Thank you. Welcome back, everyone. This next panel, is Diana's already introduced it, is regarding the environment. And to my way of thinking, this is the existential threat. This is the one that if we don't solve this one, the other ones sort of, I don't say they fall away, because they're all very important, but this is the biggie for me. So I'm very happy that I was asked to introduce this topic. We have a couple of folks who will be facilitating this panel. The first is Everett Fernandez, who is a local business owner and a longtime member of the Sebastopol Planning Commission. And then we also have Woody Hastings, who today is wearing his hat from our newly impaneled Sebastopol City Climate Action Committee. But anybody who knows anything at all about environmental causes in the county knows Woody. He has been a leader for years and years, and I really appreciate all of his efforts, tireless efforts in helping to protect our environment. So please remember to use the chat function for comments and questions, and take it away, Everett and Woody.
Well, thank you very much, Councilmember Slater and Councilmember Rich and everybody here. Thanks so much for having me here, and really appreciate being invited to join. And yes, I am my day job is at the Climate Center, but I'm a member of the relatively new Climate Action Committee of the City of Sebastopol. And I do want folks to know that we do have 3 seats open on that committee, one for an environmental justice / equity seat, one for a Sebastopol business owner, and a youth seat is opening up. So I just wanted to mention that. And as you would imagine, the Climate Action Committee is a committee that focuses on greenhouse gas issues, climate issues, and makes recommendations to the City Council. So we've got 3 fantastic panelists today. Wendy Trowbridge of the Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation, Sunny Galbraith of the Zero Waste Committee, and Ariel Majorana of the Russian River Keeper. And we will learn more about them in a moment, but I wanted to hand it off to Everett Fernandez, our co-facilitator tonight, to introduce himself a little bit. Everett?
Hi, thank you, Woody. I appreciate being on here with you. And since you switched over to an environmental background, I had to do the same thing. So the beautiful Laguna behind me. I want to thank the panelists for being here and everyone as well. This is definitely an important issue. And there have been some advantages and disadvantages with the pandemic coming. And I'm looking forward to hearing from our three panelists.
Great. Well, let's dive right into it. We would like to, I'm going to introduce them in the order that they are here on the program that I have, and that would be Dr. Wendy Trowbridge first from the Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation, panelist. And were we going to do brief self-intros first and then ask the first question? Is that how we're doing this?
Yes.
Yes, excellent.
I saw a thumbs up. So Wendy, why don't you do a brief self-introduction, and then we'll kick off with the first question.
Excellent. Thanks a lot, Woody. So I guess I just want to start by thanking all of you guys for inviting me to this wonderful event. I've enjoyed listening in on all the other panelists, and I'm all fired up to volunteer. It's really a tribute to what a great place Sonoma County is to live. And I think part of the reason that we all choose to live here, despite the high cost of living in Sonoma County, is the environment. We're truly blessed with beautiful landscapes and amazing biodiversity. There are plants and animals here that are found no place else in the world. The views from the top of Hood Mountain are truly world class. Where else can you go kayaking with bald eagles and otters, and hike in the mountains with mountain lions and and bears? So despite all of this wonderful environment, as Patrick Slater just mentioned, there are accidental threats. All this environment that we love is really endangered. The Laguna de Santa Rosa is filling in with sediment, causing Sebastopol to flood more often. Some of our unique plants and animals are on the brink of extinction. We've had these big wildfires that threaten our homes and our forests. The water quality in the Laguna is impaired. So at the Laguna Foundation, we are not lawyers and scientists in the way Ariel and Sunny are. We are scientists and teachers. We're the boots on the ground in the field, finding out where the sediment is coming from in the mountains so that we can fix it. We're planting trees along creeks to filter out the runoff and sequester carbon. We're carefully stewarding the endangered species in the vernal pools and reintroducing prescribed fire to our forests and teaching generations of students to love the environment. Our mission is to restore and conserve the Laguna de Santa Rosa watershed and inspire people to appreciate this watershed of international importance. And our vision is a laguna that is swimmable and fishable. And by that, we mean has all the native fish like coho and steelhead, and you could go out and fish and take those fish out of the Laguna and eat them. And you might even want to swim in the Laguna. So that's our dream. And we would love to have you come out and help us. And I guess one other thing that I really want to say is that I've been really impressed. I moved to Sonoma County relatively recently, and I've been really impressed by how collaborative everyone is here. And we work with the Russian River Keepers, we work with the Sonoma Land Trust and the Open Space District and the parks, and we all collaborate together to do this really important work that we do. And so, we teach programs with land paths and daily acts. And so anyway, I just wanted to say how great it is to collaborate with all those different groups.
Very good. And I think you modeled that really, really well. And I just wanted to remind folks that please enter any questions you might have in the chat. We'll be keeping an eye on that. And at any time you can put a question or a comment into the chat, and we'll do our best to get to all of them. And we will try to leave 10 minutes open at the end of this panel for your questions. And so why don't we now go to Sunny Galbraith, and please introduce yourself and tell us what you think are tell us a bit about the Zero Waste Committee and what the most pressing problems are in your arena. So.
Yes, my name is Sunny Galbraith. Thank you so much for having me. I love Sebastopol and being part of all these great community groups. And I'm a high school chemistry teacher at Orchard View School on the Apple Blossom campus, just west of town. And I'm also on our Sebastopol Zero Waste Committee, the Council Zero Waste Committee. And I'm also the co-chair of the SRJC Climate Action Night event that we do with 350 Sonoma, one of my environmental groups. And that's an awesome event where a lot of our Sebastopol high schoolers and junior college students present on climate related legislation in the state legislature and also local environmental legislation, ordinances, et cetera, being considered. So we just had that. It's in late April every year. And so I really work a lot with youth and getting youth involved in solving the problems. And in terms of pressing environmental issues, you know, of course, climate change, the climate crisis, drought, you know, everything that we know about. But and then I focus a lot on waste as well. We have a very disposable culture and we're creating a lot of garbage daily, and that got worse with COVID. So we need to claw our way back to where we were and then improve from there as well. And then also just very simply making sure we keep organics out of our landfill. So yard waste, food waste, making sure food that's edible gets back to people that need food. And then also keeping our, you know, scraps out of the landfill, sending them to compost. So that's a big part of that is public education and working with our local businesses and restaurants. And the other environmental issue that I see as really a challenge is that, you know, we're faced with this very real and present danger that we feel viscerally in our county with our fires and our floods and drought. And a real challenge is to not, you know, is to not fall victim to despair or hopelessness or feel like the problem is unsolvable or our individual actions are insignificant. So that is really what I work with a lot. The antidote to that being action and being part of a community and working together on projects that also serve a real function of connecting us and helping us, you know, make friends and feel connected in our community and realize that we're a part of the solution. And, you know, once you're busy doing some work, you don't have as much time to worry about it. And you get excited about it. So that's what I address in my work.
Wow, very good. A lot of energy there. Thank you so much. Okay, we are now ready to get to our final panelist, Ariel Monterano. Are you with us, and can you answer that? Do a little introduction and talk to us about the most pressing issues surrounding the Russian River Keeper?
Yeah, hi.
There you are.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, hi, everybody. My name is Ariel Majorana. I work with Russian River Keeper. We're based in Healdsburg, but we also work all throughout Sonoma County, Mendocino County, along the Russian River, restoring and protecting it for all communities and all generations to come. A lot of what we do, like Wendy mentioned, is a lot of things to keep our waters swimmable and fishable, but also drinkable. So a lot of our water comes from the Russian River, and water is so important for life and for everything. And keeping it clean is just something that is going to be an ongoing issue for the rest of our lives if we want to keep it intact for our next generations. So a lot of what we do is protecting it and also keeping it clean through trash mitigation, and also thinking about the runoff that happens during wildfires, and also more things that happen because of climate change, like flooding. We also do a lot of mitigation to help with that. So climate change is a big focus with Russian River Keeper right now, understandably. And another thing that we think about a lot when in terms of climate change is the drought and water conservation. This is a huge issue right now.
with climate change, our rainfall patterns are going to be changing, and we're either going to have too little water or too much water, and we need to conserve during the good times so that during the hard times we still can survive and have normal operations. So that's one thing you can do to help out if you're looking for something to do right now, is conserve water. But another thing in terms of trash is there is a lot of trash, especially in the summer months when we have a lot of tourism, a lot of people coming to enjoy the river because it is such a beautiful place, and that's what it's there for, but also for everything else that depends on it. And so we do a lot of trash work with our Clean Campus Education Clean Team program. And last year, we actually picked up over 400,000 pounds of trash, regardless of the pandemic, which was amazing. We did have a lot of issues in our operations, just trying to be safe and having smaller cleanups. So what we can also do right now is independent cleanups. If you're interested in going up and picking up trash on the Russian River, we really, really encourage you to do that. And we're also going to be starting up with volunteering again in September at our September 19th annual cleanup, which is our huge cleanup for the year. So we're really excited about that. And just doing our work to protect the Russian River in any way that we can has been our focus, and really looking forward to working with more organizations doing similar work, and just really happy to be here and seeing that and being a part of this. So thanks.
Well, thanks very much, Ariel. And you really did a good job of getting to sort of the second part of our question that we have for all of the panelists, which is the kind of be sure to weave in at some point, perhaps when you're answering questions, what sort of support the community might be able to provide to help with your efforts, volunteers, money, in-kind donations, whatever it might be. That's, a big part of this whole endeavor here tonight. We do have a couple of questions in the chat, and this would be the time for folks to enter their questions in the chat for any of the panelists. And if it is directed to a specific panelist, please do indicate that. I could start reading one of the questions off, unless Everett, did you have any comment or thoughts, questions you had for the panelists?
Yeah, I'd like to go back to the panelists and ask, I know some of it was covered, but so what kind of support specifically would help with your organization? And how about one or two things that us as general citizens, community members can do our part with? What do you suggest with that? And let's start with Sunny. We'll kind of mix things up a little bit.
Yes, thank you. If you're part of a group like the Rotary Club or a group that meets regularly, we have a student group that has made a presentation about a new law, SB 1383, which requires municipalities to make sure that we're keeping organics out of the landfill. And so it's a great presentation that high school students made. They made a Zoom presentation that they can come give to your group via Zoom. So please contact me if you have a group that they can present to. It's about a 10-minute presentation. Individually, keeping your yard waste and food waste, all food scraps can go in your green bin. When we start having events again, we'll need volunteers to volunteer at like recycling and compost stations. If you want to donate to Climate Action Night, that you can donate to 350 Sonoma that does the Climate Action Night. I'll put that in the chat. And also donating and volunteering for Sonoma Food Runners. They help collect edible food and bring it to people in need. They're a great volunteer run organization. And then let's see, what else did I have here? We're going to be doing a community upcycled art project, which is coming soon. We'll have opportunities to donate to that, or if you have web design experience and you want to help work on our web portion of that. And then I just wanted to put a shout out for Daily Acts and Land Paths, two awesome organizations that are also do great local work, and to donate to those organizations.
Great, thank you. And Wendy, same question to you. What can we do to help your organization, and what can we do as an individual, one or two things to help with the environment?
Terrific, thanks. Yeah, the Laguna Foundation is is powered by the community and by volunteers. We have our volunteer environmental education program. We have volunteer stewardship events. And there's really all kinds of opportunities, everything from becoming a board member and really devoting a lot of time to going for a hike in the Laguna and picking up any trash that you happen to see, or taking a kid out, getting them outside and teaching them what you know about the environment. As far as the volunteer opportunities that we have actually at the Laguna Foundation, one of the few volunteer programs that we've managed to keep going through COVID has been our garden volunteer. We have a dedicated group of volunteers that come out fully masked, and now everyone's all vaccinated, and they come out and help us maintain our native plant garden out on Sanford Road. And we have opportunity. We also have community education programs. And so if you have something that you really want to learn about, if you want to learn about birding or learn about where to take a good hike, check out our website and our community education programs. Allison does a great job with those. And then if you have a little bit more time and you want to become a docent with our environmental education program, that program, Chris does a ton of work on it, but the real on the ground work is done by all of our wonderful volunteers. And Chris has a great training program for those volunteers. It's a great way to learn about the Laguna and really get involved with teaching third and fourth grade kids. And our stewardship program hasn't been up and running because of COVID. We did one socially distanced vernal pool raking event back in September. But come fall, we're going to be ramping that up, and you can come help us rake vernal pools or plant trees or pull invasive weeds. So if you really want to get your hands dirty and get out there in the field and help us, that would be great. And Ariel mentioned the September 19th trash cleanup. We do that as well. We'll be doing that out at Copeland Creek. So we got lots of different volunteer opportunities.
Great.
Well, oh, and also donations, obviously, are really important. Sorry.
Thank you. Woody, do you have any questions from our?
So, here's what I have to say is that there are a lot of interesting, great questions being posed in the chat, but they're also being answered in the chat. And I know somebody asked earlier if the chat would be saved for the, for the folks, for the attendees. I think if that's doable, we should definitely do that. Save the chat and share it. Because a lot of good questions. There are questions around, how to avoid plastics, how to have more, receptacles for compostables in apartment buildings, things like that, the logistics of recycling and getting to zero. Maybe Sunny, you could speak to that a little bit live in addition to what's being shared in the chat. How do you actually get the logistics right and make it possible for people to actually do what they want? So many people want to do the right thing and they find it difficult.
Right. Yes. Well, I want to put in a little plug. There is a new refill store opening on the plaza called Homebody. It's opening in June, I believe, on the plaza, where you can take, it's, like home care products like shampoo and whatnot. You can take your bottles and refill them there. So that's awesome. Unfortunately, the pandemic has set us back a little bit with bulk, and I'm hoping that moving forward, we'll be able to get back to where we were, in stores and being able to reuse, some bags and whatnot for bulk. The Sebastopol City Council did pass a polystyrene foam ban and disposable food serviceware ordinance. And that has been passed by some of the other cities in the county and is being considered at the county level as well. We had to step back a little bit from starting to enforce that because of the strain on our restaurants during the pandemic, but we're now reaching out to restaurants again with that, and I'll put the link in the chat to that actual ordinance. And then, remembering that as we're allowed to start bringing our bags back and our reusable mugs, like those will be coming back online to get back in that habit. Yes, and we also reshaped our event ordinance so that events, when they happen again, now need to have compost, recycling, and trash at the events, and various other specific requirements to reduce waste of events, such as, say, the Apple Blossom Festival, Gravenstein Festival actually already does a very good job. And we are leading the way in the county. The county is now, we're the first city to pass the polystyrene foam ban, and really kind of led the way for many other cities that have passed it, and now the county's considering it. And we're also the first city to redo our event application. And now I just heard at the county climate Board of Supervisors meeting yesterday that they're working with Permit Sonoma to redo their event application so that all big events that happen in the county need to have compost and recycling and do specific things to reduce waste. So it's sometimes agonizingly slow, but we are making progress and really leading the way, I think, in our community. So,
hey, Sunny,
yes.
I have a visual aid.
Oh, thank you.
Isn't that great? Can you guys see that? That's my Recology will deliver this to you. Mm-hmm. And the question was, what can you do? And do you see how they have this is my compost, my cute little compost bucket. Yes. Isn't that adorable? And it has little images that shows me what I can put. Did you know that you can put coffee grounds in here, including the little paper coffee filter? You can put everything in here. So if you want some actual instructions, I mean, this is the kind of easy to use thing that we love in Sebastopol that allows us to do it. And Recology, we'll put a link to Recology, but they'll deliver you pamphlets and materials that show you exactly what goes in every single one of the bins. So and Sunny's a great contact, but I couldn't resist, right? Okay, thank you.
And actually, if your group signs up to get our presentation from our students, they'll also give a little education about what can go in the green bin, and anybody that attends the presentation can get a free countertop thing, that exact bucket. So please, I'll put my link in the chat here, my email, please contact us. I'm ready to start scheduling our student presentations, and it also helps support our student leaders and makes them really feel like they have great agency and in our community. So
great, thank you. I actually have a question for Ariel. So Ariel, how can we ensure that visitors from outside of the area coming to enjoy the Russian River will be better stewards of the river, and what can we do, or what any suggestions?
I think one suggestion I'd have is to, I guess, be a good steward ourselves and be the model. If you see trash on the ground, just pick it up and throw it away, and other people usually will follow that model. I think that's a good idea. And also, if you have people coming from out of town, let them know about our river and how important it is to us, and about the wildlife that lives there, and really try to engage them in that stewardship process and making them feel like they should care about it too. I think that's a really good way to kind of ensure that tourists really kind of take on that as it's all connected. Everything in our environment is connected, and we are all connected too. And then I did see another question in the chat about Clean Team. And I did just want to clarify that in addition to cleaning up trash, they do also interact with the homeless population that lives on the Russian River, and kind of connects them with services, and also helps to collect their trash on a weekly basis to keep the area clean, and help the homeless create that attitude of stewardship for their own space too. So I just wanted to answer that to Adrian. And also one more thing, that we are always looking for supplies for cleaning up. So if anyone wanted to donate like pickers or gloves or masks or trash bags, anything you would use for cleaning up the river, we're always taking those kind of in-kind donations as well. So thanks.
So Everett and Woody, I think kind of a wrap up, and then we can take a little break.
Yeah. Thank you to our panelists, and thank you to my co-facilitators. It's made this very easy. So Woody, back to you.
Yeah, thank you, Everett, and thanks, panelists. Great job. And, I think we heard a lot of great resources, and I think folks did see that the chat will be saved and shared. So a lot of good links. And so step up and help these organizations do the great work they're already doing, and they can always use help. So I think, that's the purpose of being here tonight. So thanks again, everybody who's here, and to the panelists, really appreciate it. And I appreciate being invited. Thank you.
Awesome, everyone. So cool.
Thanks,
What a
Woody.
great panel. Thank you. What a great panel. Thank you to Everett Fernandez, a local business owner and also planning commissioner, and to Woody Hastings with his many hats, but the Climate Center and Sebastopol Climate Action Committee are two of them. And also to these great panelists. Wow, learned so much about what's going on environmentally here with the Laguna de Santa Rosa Foundation, Wendy Trowbridge, and also with Sunny Galbraith, again, wearing many hats seems to be a theme here, but Zero Waste Committee is the current one, along with the Climate Action Night that she does every year, engaging students. And then of course, Ariel Maharona, I'm mispronouncing it, but that wonderful woman. Please pronounce it correctly. Maharana?
It's Ariel Majorana.
Majorana. Too simple. Ariel Majorana. And through all of that, everyone's going to remember your name. Russian River Keeper. So thank you to all of you. Please do note that the Get Involved link for anyone who wants more information. There was a lot of interest here and conversation about people who wanted specific information and wanted to be engaged to be able to do things right environmentally. So, please make sure you connect with us so we don't lose track of that. And let's take a brief break. We'll be back here at 6:49 for the final panel, which is community enrichment, ending in a really happy note with Jim Corbett and Meg Mitsutani and some wonderful local organizations. So we'll go to the slideshow. See you back here in about 2 minutes. Bye, folks. Thank you. Hello, all. It's 6:50. All right, so now we're going into our last panel. And it's, you know, talk about an upbeat topic here. Thank you to everyone who has stayed in and commented and remained engaged. I don't need to remind you about the chat because you guys got it. Thank you for all of your engagement. It means a huge amount to have everyone contributing in the way that they are. And we know that you'll keep contributing in so many other ways. So here we are, final panel. This one is cultural enrichment, of which we know we have a lot here in this little town of Sebastopol. So we are going to have our wonderful council member, Nisa Hinton, introduce this panel. And just before we do that, I want everyone to know that this will close out at 7:20. And then we will have some closing remarks from our fabulous Vice Mayor, Sarah Glade Gurney. And then we will be done for the evening. And I won't be speaking to you again. This is my last time. So I just want to tell you from the bottom of my heart how absolutely impressed I am by the engagement, the sharing of factual information, the joy and celebration that's happened here, and also the communication of very concrete needs and, you know, big picture and concrete needs. And what I know is going to be connections that will go into the future and will help our wonderful community be even better than it is already as we move forward in this kind of difficult time, but it's looking pretty rosy right now. So turning it over to Nisa Hinton, our wonderful council member, to introduce the next panel. Take it on, Nisa.
All right. Thanks, Diana. And thank you for everything you've done this evening coordinating. And I've been watching, we've had over 150, 180 people at least online and lots of chatting going on. So that's great. This is a fun subject because who either hasn't had Jim Corbett, Mr. Music Foundation, teach his kids in school or go to Peacetown, and then Meg Mezzatani from Sebastopol World Friends. And I can just say I've hosted exchange students and it's a wonderful experience. So they're here to present, I think it's called Community Enrichment tonight. And looking forward to hearing from them. Remember, you can be in the chat. This is our last session. And then we will be hearing from our Vice Mayor, Sarah Glade Gurney, who I saw putting on her lipstick in the camera, I gotta say. So she's got her lipstick on right for the final comments in a little bit. All right, take it away. Jim? Meg?
Hey, yeah, really happy to be here and very excited. As I say, we've got a great community here, and Mr. Music and all the other people that we got Katie Davis, the fabulous Teresa Raimondo, Felina Chantra, Catherine DeVries, and of course my cohort Meg Mezzatani. So as far as Peacetown goes, I've kind of decided I can't really have it at Ives Park because we're so impacted and there's no way to kind of control the numbers at Ives Park. But we do have a possibility of doing something at the Barlow. And what I wanted to do was make Wednesday night, we'll have some music at the Barlow, not only on the corner there, they're going to block off the street, but also the idea is to have it throughout Sebastopol. So Wednesday becomes a Peacetown in Sebastopol, and we have something in the Crooked Goat and at Hop Monk and at Coffee Cats. And so we have a whole spectrum of music all around Sebastopol. So that'll serve our restaurants and also the other things. So I'm really hoping that it works out. I'm putting in the application to the city now and going with the Barlow, and they're very excited about being part of the whole thing too. So anyway, that's what I'm excited about for Peacetown. And yeah, and Meg.
Okay,
Sure,
so Jim, I was getting a little woozy there watching your cell phone. So can you keep it a little more stable?
Okay, gotcha.
Great.
Gotcha.
Well, yeah, thank you. Thank you. My name is Meg Mizutani, and I'm a board member of Sebastopol World Friends. I'm so honored and excited to be these powerful community leaders tonight. And, thank you, Councilmember Rich, the City of Sebastopol, and Commission for organizing such a great event. I would like to briefly introduce myself and my organization, Sebastopol World Friends. As many of you know, Sebastopol World Friends is a sister city organization of the City of Sebastopol, running cultural exchange programs with our two sister cities, one in Ukraine and one in Japan. And our mission is world peace, one friend at a time. Our goal is not only to enrich individual students, participants' lives, but to bring the entire community to the table for our peace building efforts. We believe teaching and practicing acceptance and inviting diversity is a powerful way to build peace, and the entire community needs to be part of this. So many nonprofits, service organizations, businesses, schools, and faith community members and city council members and the city staff have supported us since our foundation in 1985. We have a common goal, and we cannot do this alone. So even during the pandemic, thanks to the community support, we have been able to hold successful events. Many of you participated. One example is Let's Ring Bell of Peace for the 75th anniversary of Hiroshima and Nagasaki atomic bombings. And the other one was Virtual Sister City Friendship Dinner. I saw many of you there, which was attended by 100 people. So I am very excited to hear my colleagues' reports today, and we look forward to working with you. Jim?
Okay,
Yeah,
go ahead, Jim.
Great. Okay, I'll try to keep myself steady here, though. Yeah. As I say, I've already mentioned about the Peace Town thing, and we also have the Mr. Music Foundation, and I'm excited about that because I knew music education was going to suffer during the pandemic, and indeed it has. But what we did was we recorded little half-hour music lessons for the teachers to use in a modular thing. So we have ear training, we have rhythm games, we have special guests, we have Song of the Week. And we've done 24 episodes, and it's been very useful. It's been at Parkside, it's been at Oak Grove, it's been at Kenwood. We've been in 9 schools locally, and we have great hopes that it's going to be very useful for the teachers to use next year in their in-class learning, because we got all sorts of variety of different music, and it basically turns the kids on to music. And we're working with the kindergarten through 6th grade kids, and it's been very successful at the schools we've done. So we're hoping to expand next year.
Jim, the amazing thing about Jim and Mr. Music is that there are so many incredible ways in which Jim and his program and all the people he organizes as volunteers are contributing to our town. So that's a really good thing for all of us to keep in mind, to the extent that you want to volunteer and support all those efforts. Jim is easy to find. If there's anyone in the world who can't find him, let me know, because you're the only one. So now we're going to move on to Teresa Raimondo, who's going to give us a few minutes and talk to us about the Historical Society and their work with the museum, and she'll probably mention the Burbank Experiment Farm. So Teresa? Teresa, I know she's in the room, so I'm going to now move on to Katie.
I'm going to unmute myself. I unmuted myself. Sorry.
She's there.
I'm just not used to all these, I'm usually not used to being muted.
Okay, 3 minutes of fame, go.
There we go. Well, that's all right. It's great to be back and see all you guys, and Meg and Jim. It's good to see you doing wonderful things as usual. So I'm here with a different hat. I retired, and then immediately Gloria Roberts asked me to serve on the board for the Sonoma County Historical Society. So here I am, and I'm really enjoying being with them. It's a wonderful organization. What a lot of you probably don't know about it at all, but you probably don't know that the Historical Society has two entities under its umbrella. The Luther Burbank Farm, which is up on Bodega next to the Burbank Housing, and also the West County Museum, which is right downtown on Main Street. We manage both properties. We have a lease with the city, who owns both properties. The farm is a city park, which is available to the public. And the museum is also owned by the city, and it's the old depot right downtown. We stay very busy. We obviously do things by volunteer, which most of our groups are going to be talking to you about. The farm's mission is to carry on the work of Luther Burbank. It's not an experimental farm, which is what used to always happen at the chamber. People came in and said they wanted to see the experimental farm. It's an experiment farm. That's where Luther Burbank did a lot of his plantings and experiments on his plants, and many of his plants are still there. And our job at the farm mission is to keep those plants alive and thriving and maintain the original integrity of what Luther Burbank intended. We only have one actual officially paid employee, and that's a farm curator. And he maintains the farm's integrity and helps the volunteers to do the same thing. Otherwise, it's all done by volunteers. We have a farm director, Gail Lee, who helps manage all that and the volunteers and helps run the meetings and keeps that place running very smoothly. There's a cottage up there which is used also as a museum area with Luther Burbank's things. And then we have the museum downtown, which the museum director, Donna Pittman, is managing now, which is running very smoothly. We just reopened our suffragette exhibit. We manage several exhibits throughout the year, which is quite exciting. But our mission there is to maintain the heritage for your town, which is extremely important. You know, you can't really live and learn and exist without having a history. But the important part of that is saving the history and the heritage of your town, because if somebody doesn't do it, it goes away. And there's a lot of stories in this community that are quite interesting and people are quite interested in knowing about, and families come from afar to go through our research library, which is the Triggs Resource Center, to find out about their families. So we have a lot of things that happen between these two entities that we manage for the city. And we're very excited about the things that we do. You want me to tell you what we're doing or save that for later? You're muted.
And I'm not used to being muted either, Teresa. What is going on?
We have a problem.
Jeez. Okay, so yeah, let's kind of do a round robin here. We have a number of organizations to hear from, but I think it's cool to think about. You have the formal art centers and the cultural centers, but we also have this historical piece and the farm out there that is really an important element for us. So if we could please go to Katie Davis now, who is the wonderful executive director of the Sebastopol Senior Center. Katie, go.
Hi, can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, great, just checking. First of all, shout out to Commission and City Council for this really well organized event. And thank you, of course, for having me. As Diana said, my name is Katie Davis. I'm the executive director here at the Sebastopol Area Senior Center, which has been part of this wonderful community for 51 years, since 1969. First ever senior center in Sonoma County also. And I also wanted to start off with a little bit of a trivia question. The question is, what age are you able to become a member of the senior center? It's actually a trick question. The senior center is open to people of all ages. Aging is part of life from birth, as we know. And so we invite and encourage anyone to become a member of the senior center, particularly if you're dealing with aging parents or family members. So with that said, the idea of discussing what this community needs could not come at a more critical time as we slowly resume some normalcy, and so many critical needs of our seniors have emerged over this last year. including food insecurity, lack of mental health services, lack of access or knowledge of services, social isolation and loneliness. And I just want to quickly summarize some of the efforts of the Senior Center this past year. We made a concerted effort to stay open and remain available for the community. And so some of the focuses were, we began delivering and continue to deliver 800 meals per week to seniors who are isolated. We also provide transportation to seniors who can't drive anymore. We personally called and checked in with 1,300 seniors in our community. We quickly pivoted our classes to Zoom, like our exercise classes, balance classes, lectures, and TED Talks. We began offering support groups for LGBTQI elders. And we also host an online LGBTQI Elder Resource Center. But by far our most popular happening here at the Senior Center are our monthly virtual day trips where we take seniors all over the world to visit museums in Paris and Oslo, Pompeii, anything we could do to ensure our seniors had some engagement and stimulation. And we're slowly resuming some in-person services, which you can find out more by giving us a call or visiting our website. But our work is not done yet, and we can't do this alone. So collaboration moving forward will need to be a priority. The state of California is estimating a doubling of the senior population in the next 10 years as the last of the baby boomers reach 65. And with our above average senior population in our area, we here at the Senior Center are beginning to strategize and prepare for this increase of demand for senior services, which means expanding, growing the Senior Center to ensure we can meet those needs. And so our goal is to ensure that every senior in this community can age with dignity and independence in their own homes for as long as possible. To do that, we're aggressively fundraising. We look forward to hosting an event later this fall at the community center. We're recruiting and training volunteers to ensure that our reach is as wide as possible. And to that end, we invite you to donate, visit our website, sign up for our weekly emails. You can apply to volunteer. And with that, I thank you for your time and invite you all to please get involved with any of these amazing organizations.
Well, thank you so much. So exciting to hear that it's open to all ages. I did not know that. Yes, and you have a great lunch program. Okay, so yes, maybe we can move on to the next panelist.
You know, Meg,
yeah.
I kind of cut Teresa short, so maybe we should give her a chance to let us know what what her organizations need, because I think that's okay. Thank you.
Okay, that's great. Yes.
Muted and cut off, boy. It's okay, really.
Not for long.
No, I know. Well, I really was very intrigued by what Katie was having to say, actually. The wonderful things that we've actually been doing, it's been a real challenge with COVID for sure, because we had a museum exhibit at the suffrage exhibit that was absolutely fabulous that our volunteers put together. Mary Dodgen and Sally Morrison, and it really turned out fabulous, but then we couldn't open. So, you know, having a small museum that we do and not being able to have people there to see it was disappointing, but we have finally been able to reopen it. And so that's been exciting. That will stay open until August, the day of the suffrage date for women's suffrage. And then after that, we will install a new installation, which will be automotive and gas stations in the Sebastopol area. And I think you'll be very surprised to find out how many we actually had in the good old days. So that will be very interesting. It'll bring a lot of people out that you may not normally see attending our museum exhibits. And a lot of guys will be there, I'm sure, in form with automotive. The farm has had a wonderful year in the sense that they've been able to still be outside, which has been helpful. And they've had their meetings outside, but they've been working outside, and the farm looks fabulous. The flowers and plants and the trees are doing really well. We've had our plant sales, which have actually increased over this COVID session, which I think people have just been so tired of being home and being not able to be around people, they've all taken up gardening or actually improved their gardening skills. We have some wonderful volunteers that have been growing the small plants at home and bringing them to the farm and selling those. And so our plant sales have increased. We do everything by volunteer and everything by docents. So we're really looking for more people to volunteer to get back into docenting at our museum. You know, people are a little bit hesitant about coming back, so we lost a few people. We have a wonderful resource. There's the archives, which we need people to sort things, and the research library. Just there are a ton of things for people to do. We're hoping to get some new programs up and running. I think COVID also had a positive effect on people. We're also glad to be back with one another, and they're re-energized and just really happy to get back into it and get things going again. So there's a real new energy. The museum is newly landscaped thanks to the donation of volunteers and businesses. So we're really excited about where we're going to go from here. There's new energy on the board, new people, new things going on. But you know, your history of your town is so important. We're getting oral histories of people and just trying to really get that going fast, because there's a lot of people that have a lot of things to say. And I don't think people really realize how important it is to talk about your community and what's going on and what people have to say about it. And so we're trying to capture all those and really trying to get youth involved in our history, because they don't always think of that as being important now, because they don't think they're going to ever be old, but we all know we are, and we're all getting there. And being able to get maybe more seniors from the senior center involved in docenting and talking to them about their history in their town, and getting the kids involved with the technology of it, because a lot of us at our age, and we are aging down there, don't have the technology that a lot of these kids have. So we have a lot of things that need to be done, and we need people to do it. We just need people to recognize that the history of your community as just important or more important as present day as what's going on. So donate and volunteer, and let's get moving on that. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Yes, thank you, Teresa. I hear the keyword collaboration and re-energizing. I would love to hear from other panelists. Let's call Catherine DeVries, Sebastopol Center for the Arts.
Hello, my name is Catherine DeVries, and I have to tell you, I want to thank everyone who organized this and gave us this opportunity, but I also want to thank everyone who is still hanging in there. You know, I'm the last one, and thank you for staying. My mother always said, don't be the last one at the party, but if you're with me, I'll be fine. So anyways, I want to say my name is Catherine DeVries. I'm the creative director, and with Una Glass, the managing director. I lead this seemingly small nonprofit organization called the Sebastopol Center for the Arts, abbreviated SebArts. We are an evolving organization daring to stretch the limits of a small community arts organization. We aspire to excellence, to relevance, and to truly making a difference in Sebastopol, West County, and the North Bay. And our mission statement says we are dedicated to honoring diversity, encouraging creative excellence, and providing a welcoming gathering for the community to experience art, make art, share art, and to celebrate creative thought. So in normal times, we're in the Veterans Building in Ice Park and operate our award-winning programs. And many of you may not know the breadth of what we do. So to start off, we have a great ceramic studio. We have a literary program that includes the Sonoma County Poet Laureate program. We have musical performances all year round. We have world-class international art exhibitions at a level that sometimes can be seen in San Francisco and New York. We show the best in fiber arts, book arts, glass art, the International Watercolor Association, to name a few. And we also make sure to promote our local artists and have exhibitions open to everyone. Our documentary film festival is equally striving for excellence. It was recently given the honor of being an Academy Award qualifying festival. So our volunteers screen hundreds of applications from all over the world to benefit our community with the most impressive selection of documentaries in the yearly festival that is generally in March, but this year in June. So write in your books June 10 to 13, and you can buy your tickets online now. It will be a virtual showing of the film festival. And did you know that it is SebArts that holds the two major open studio events in Sonoma County? Sonoma County Art Trails this year in September, and the Art at the Source in the two first weekends of June. Get ready to follow the yellow signs in Sonoma County to visit your favorite artist studios. They will bring people into town. We think collaboration is very important, and collaboration with other organizations, but also with the city, is important to keep it thriving and successful. So, to get back to it, during COVID, we had to shut down our building. We reinvented ourselves to stay in touch with our community, mostly in virtual format. We even built a new website for artists to have virtual open studios. But our biggest success and our biggest success story during COVID was giving 24 children the opportunity to continue their education in our building. Working closely with Linda Irving, we reconfigured the place, structured the rooms to be a safe place for them, for each child, increased our wireless system, and had children studying and being helped instead of being alone and struggling at home. Our opulent city has many low-income families who need assistance, and we were there to support that need in the community as well. Upcoming now, we have an explosive summer camp like we have never seen before. It's nothing to do with just keeping kids busy. Through directed and methodical education, we want to touch and release the most creative side of each child in our care. We will be applying the ideas of a maker's camp, thanks to the ideas and collaboration with Dale Doherty. It will also be a school in life skills, cooking and building and perform and making the art of life. We want children to feel good in themselves and discover what it is to be creative, a skill that is one of the highest importance for the rest of their life. So, 2020 has been a tough year for us, I know for you as well, but also for us. And your solidarity and generosity is really important to us. To continue our mission, we need you. I suggest that you become a member. Volunteer with us in simple or more specialized ways, or there is a lovely donation button on our website, or you can call me. So we have some generous donations underwriting or donors underwriting part of the summer camp, but we want to give more children scholarships and the opportunity to do something amazing. So for $275, sometimes half of that, you can give a child a life-changing opportunity. You can start visiting us. From May 27, we open the gallery 4 days a week from Thursday to Sunday. Come and find out for yourself or visit our website at sebarts.org. And last but not least, you're invited to our open house party. On June the 23rd, between 5 and 7, come to our big party. At the center, there will be music and free beverages and food, and a way to say hello to the press, the members, the neighbors, and new friends. So June 23rd, between 5 and 7. So I hope to see you soon.
Thank you so much. Wow, lots of great activities. Thank you so much for making the list and telling us all about it. Okay, well, we would like to move on to the last panelist from Sebastopol Community Cultural Center, Felina Chansa. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yes, very close. Elena
Great.
Chapa. Thank you, Meg. So thank you for having me. It's really nice to be here with this panel. I'm the current interim executive director for the Sebastopol Community Cultural Center. And our mission is to bring the community together for inclusive events and classes and services for all. Our goal really is to be the central hub and to keep the community connected, engaged through activity. Of course, like everyone else, we had to look for creative ways to reinvent ourselves this past year. So with the closure of the community center through the pandemic, we found opportunities to use the space as well as to support as many of our nonprofit organizations as possible. Examples include, we were the Screaming Mimi's annual blood drive. We used the building for the Senior Center's annual Christmas store fundraiser, which was a lot of fun. The Kiwanis did a food drive that supported Food for Thought. Farm Trails did a fundraiser in our parking lot to help make up some of what they lost from their Gravenstein Apple Fair. We were a polling site. We're currently a vaccine site for West County Health Services. So we're really trying to make sure that we use this space until we can be back up and running. The beauty of it is that we have formed some new relationships and partnerships with these organizations, and we hope to continue to be able to do these things going forward. I would like to take a moment to just share my gratitude for the other organizations that have supported us, whether it be with knowledge or emotional support through this rough year. So the Center for the Arts and the Senior Center and all the other organizations that have been so collaborative. It's really a great community to be part of. The community center is a buzz. We've got a strong restart. I was there just the other weekend taking a CPR class, and we had roller skating going on and a basketball clinic, and we had the vaccine site. So there were people in every section of the everything. People were everywhere. What we need, I'm trying to hurry. I know we're right at closing here, but we need volunteers as we reopen, always donations. I know it's been mentioned, but I'll just close with, we'd love your suggestions and your feedback. If you have ideas on how to use the space, how to bring people together, please send it to us. My one paid employee at the community center right now, her name is all over the website. You can always find a way to get information to her and she'll get it to the right person. So her name is Jessica. So between the two of us, we'll make sure to get to take your advice. So that's it. Thank you.
Great, wonderful. I think we need to wrap up, but thank you so much for presenting your great projects and explaining your needs. During the pandemic, we all learned to connect more and reflect. And I think it's wonderful that we're here tonight and showcasing our activities, and so proud, and partnership working together is the key. So thank you again. This is Jim. Do we lose him?
Yeah.
Oh, here, great.
I'm excited, and I did want to give a shout out to Keith Baker and Main Street West Theater, because that's such a great resource here. For live theater is a great thing, and I'm really hoping that they get up and going and stuff. So shout out to Keith Baker and and everybody who's doing all these great things and stuff. So we got a great community, and let's keep going.
Thanks, Jim. Well, this has been an awesome final panel, very upbeat, just exactly what we would expect and just exactly what we needed. What an amazing evening. So first, just want to thank the facilitators for the Cultural Enrichment Panel, Jim Corbett of the Mr. Music Foundation, and Meg Mitsutani of Sebastopol World Friends, and also the panelists who are familiar to us, which is really a wonderful thing. We had Teresa Raimondo from the Sonoma County Western Historical Society talking about the museum and the Burbank Experimental Farm. And we also had Katie Davis from the Sebastopol Senior Center, and of course, Felina Chantha from the Sebastopol Community Cultural Center, near and dear to my heart. And then finally, we had the charming Catherine DeVries from Sebastopol Center for the Arts. What a great closing panel. Thank you to everyone for participating. We're going to put in the box here, I know it'll show up in a minute, a final reminder to link to the Get Involved form, so that you can let us know, so that we can keep connected, because as we've been saying, this is just the beginning of a conversation and connecting and membership for all these amazing organizations. Please do download that resource guide. It's really got a lot of detail and links to all of these organizations that you've been hearing about tonight. So impressive to see the collaboration. And I have to do a call out to Rachel Anderson, who's here from the Active 2030 Club. Hi, Rachel. And the business groups that support all of the interests in town, the Chamber of Commerce and the Downtown Association. They're part of this conversation too. And for us to thrive, they have to thrive. We all have to thrive together. I think we're all getting that message of inclusion and collaboration and, float all those boats, just saying. So now we get to get our closing remarks from an incredible woman who has been a staple in our community, is now our Vice Mayor, Sarah Glade Gurney. Her presence has been felt in all different areas of this town, and she's helping to float all those boats too. So she's been here the entire time listening to what's been going on, and she's going to give us the 10-minute summation, call to action, what's next, folks, sort of commentary. So please welcome Sarah Glade Gurney, and then after that, we're done. She closes us out and we're done. Oh, and I should thank Commission, shout out to Commission for all their support. But now let's give some applause, virtual or real, to Sarah Glade Gurney.
Hey, thank you, Diana. Thank you, everybody. This has been a really long conversation. And I have to say, I feel a little bit overwhelmed, and perhaps some of you do too, with all the information, the choices we're hearing about, and the decision points we know we're going to make. But I also feel my heart growing as I've listened to this 3.5-hour long conversation. I have gratitude for our speakers for addressing difficult subjects, talking about their vulnerabilities, and asking for help. I'm delighted to be here together with everyone as we try and figure out our next steps. The question right now is, how will each of us take action now that we've learned so much? Perhaps that's part of the silver lining of the pandemic. We've lived in isolation, so now we're deciding, who do we want to include in our lives, very intentionally. We live deprived of social activity, so we're thinking, right? How do I want to come back? What activity do I want to bring back to my life? Through fires and floods and more fires, now a pandemic, we've learned that we're better when we work together. And we've heard that over and over as the organizations this evening have shared their stories. I want to thank today's presenters and the organizers for all of their planning to bring us together today. I want to thank my colleagues on the City Council for funding this work out of concern for the well-being of our community and our future together. I want to thank all of you participants for showing up and taking an interest. And I hope you will respond with generosity, with your skill, energy, labor, and importantly, your time. I mean, good things take a long time to come to fruition. I know that because I'm working in government time and it goes really slowly. An example, our Street Smart Sebastopol program, we've taken about 20 years to build 18 smart crosswalks. And we're getting to 20, we've got 2 more in the pipeline. But right now, do we really have the luxury of that much time? No, we don't. Not with people's health, well-being, and safety threatened. Not with our local businesses in collapse. Not with holes in our city budget. And not with the increasingly severe impacts of climate change. This is really a historic moment for us to grab. Let me give us a little history. Over the past year, at Council direction, Commission has created different groups to meet. The Business Council, the Community Benefit Organization Council, now our Service Organization Group. They've surveyed our residents. I've witnessed a tidal wave of change in these groups as they've met, to share the confusion about how to operate in a pandemic, to share ideas about how to pivot and stay afloat. We have a new culture in Sebastopol, and the walls of those smallish little silos have really been dismantled. In this extreme situation, instead, we're working in a more positive and supportive environment of cooperation and collaboration, words we've heard often this evening. This is a historic moment for us now. We're in the present moment celebrating together our resiliency, having tackled many challenges of the pandemic and looking to those challenges ahead as opportunities to be better together. This is a historic moment for us for our future because we've committed to answer these questions. How can I help? Where do I want to fit in my community? Now, we've been reminded several times of the community guide and the Get Engaged worksheet that Commission is going to post. It's been in the chat. It'll be on the city website. The information will be on their website. But I'm going to give you some answers to that question that I've heard this evening. How can I help? Where do I want to fit in? Well, the organizations are there, and there are many more organizations that we give credit and thanks to. Here's some answers, and they're all verbs. Volunteer, join, give, help, support, donate, work, create, build, guide, collaborate, train, share, teach, step up, suggest, tutor, engage, speak up, counsel, mentor, coach, publicize, connect, intervene, advise, most importantly, act. So I'm going to urge each of us to decide, how do we want to be part of our history now and help us be better together by the actions we commit ourselves to. And I look forward to the next summit with everybody. Goodbye and good night. And thank you so much for all your time.
Okay, everyone, applause. Hooray. We're done. Thank you so much.